That closes the extraordinary council meeting. I'm minded to move straight into the ordinary council meeting. I will move through the normal procedure notices at the beginning, because we've done that at the beginning of the extraordinary council meeting, and move straight from the extraordinary meeting. Thank you. Declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest to be made? Councillor Ansell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to declare an interest in item 7 on the agenda. This item relates to my disclosable pecuniary interest as a director of a business that operates in the planning industry. I've taken the advice of the monitoring officer and will withdraw from the meeting for the duration of the item and will not take part in the vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ansell. Obviously, county councillors, I will take on block as that declaration of interest. Are there any further declarations of interest? None. Thank you. Right, the minutes. Item number 3, minutes of the previous meeting held on the 13th of February. Are they a true and accurate record? Can I take that as general assent? Okay. That's general assent without need for a formal vote. Item number 4, announcements. Deputy Mayor, do you have any announcements? Leader of the Council. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As promised in previous full councils, I want to update members on 2 significant matters and another, and that is our ongoing work on devolution and local government reorganisation, our work on empty homes and TA, and the promised update on the rollout of the Warm Home Guarantee Scheme. First, on devolution and LGR, this is a major shift in how we govern Essex, as we've just been debating. It will impact every resident, business and service we deliver. As members will know, Basildon has been working alongside our partners across Greater Essex to develop proposals for a simpler, stronger system of local government, one that can deliver for our residents and businesses now and into the future. The reality is Essex's current system is too complex. We have 15 different councils, overlapping responsibilities and a lack of strategic alignment with health, policing and infrastructure. It is time we cut through the bureaucracy and we built a system that actually works for the people we serve. Since I updated the council last, the Secretary of State has announced the devolution priority programme and Essex has been placed on it. As a consequence, the government accepted the Conservative County Council's proposal to postpone the 2025 elections in Basildon. They also set us 2 deadlines in Basildon. Listen, they also set us 2 deadlines. First, we must agree on an interim plan and submit this to government by Friday the 21st of March. Next, we must agree a full submission on exactly what the new councils will look like by the 26th of September 2025. I am pleased to let council know that across Essex, we have agreed an interim plan setting out how reorganisation could work alongside the creation of the Greater Essex Combined Authority. The overwhelming majority of Essex Council's leaders now back a model with 5 new unitary councils. Work is ongoing to assess the financial sustainability, service impact and governance structures because this has to be done right, not rushed. Engagement is expanding with businesses, MPs, universities and public sector partners. But we must be clear, the change must work for Basildon. I have made it clear to the government that any reorganisation must guarantee financial stability for our services. No new council should be burdened with legacy debt. We need to ensure local representation is not diluted. Our communities must still have a strong voice, and monster councils like those proposed by PwC have no place in our county. Thirdly, we need to secure the funding needed for the transition. The estimated costs cannot be placed on local taxpayers. We will continue working with partners to refine the final proposal due for submission in September. And in the meantime, we will push government to engage directly, provide clarity and commit to funding this transition. I should also make clear that the government has given its timeline. The election to the Mayor of Essex will take place in May 2026. Elections to the new councils will take place in May 2027 and Basildon Council will cease to exist in May 2028. The Chief Executive and I have held multiple meetings with staff from across the council to explain these changes, and we have a team working on LGR. Next, I want to highlight the significant progress that has been made in bringing empty homes back into use in our borough. the steps we're taking to further reduce long-term vacancies, and the additional measures we will introduce to ensure every available home serves its purpose and helps us bring down the cost of TA. No home should sit idle while residents are forced into costly and unsuitable temporary accommodation. It is infuriating for those families and expensive for taxpayers. When we began this journey as an administration, our borough had 173 long-term empty properties, homes that stood empty and unfurnished for more than 2 years. In August, we took a decisive step by appointing an empty homes officer, tasked with tackling this issue head-on. Through this role, we have seen positive results already. Since August, 57 properties have been brought back into use due to direct intervention with owners, and a further 60 have been reoccupied following works or sales to new owners. As a result, the number of long-term empty properties in our borough has been reduced. Among the current long-term properties, 16 belong to the council and 15 belong to Peabody. These 21 properties require major repair works before they can be reoccupied. We are working to ensure these homes are brought back into use as soon as possible, and I've asked Councillor Smith to prioritise these properties in the repairs programme so we can get people from TA into them. Additionally, we've identified 5 properties where owners cannot be traced. However, each of these has substantial council tax arrears, and we are preparing charging orders in partnership with our legal team. Looking ahead, we are actively exploring new solutions to further reduce the number of empty properties, and we are in discussion with the legal team on a repair and lease scheme which would support property owners in bringing homes back into use while ensuring they meet quality standards. Mr Mayor, we are also examining the use of empty dwelling management orders. These orders will allow the council to take control of certain long-term vacant properties for an initial 12-month period, working with owners to get them back into use. This is not just about numbers, although we have been proactive in raising awareness of the financial incentives available to owners of empty properties. Those owners who have properties that have been empty for more than 2 years can benefit from VAT reduction on refurbishment works, and we hope that that will enable more of those landlords to get those homes back into good use. On the Warm Homes Guarantee, I want to fulfil the commitment to update Council on its rollout. It is a scheme that we introduced to support pensioners struggling with heating costs. Council will recall that Basildon Council was the first council in the country to introduce such a scheme to support pensioners just outside the pension credit threshold when changes to the winter fuel allowance were made. Mr Mayor, since September we have made real progress. We have visited 47 sheltered housing schemes, supporting 134 pensioner households in claiming pension credit and winter fuel allowance that they were not previously claiming. Community centre outreach has helped another 18 pensioners, while the Revs and Bens outreach bus has reached a further 90 households. Over 500 pensioners have used our new triage application system, and 259 pensioners have already received their £100 Warm Home Guarantee payment. A total of £25,900 has been provided so far. This scheme has done more than just issue grants. It has highlighted the scale of need amongst our older residents. Many pensioners are entitled to extra support that they aren't claiming, and through this initiative, we have helped them to access it. We are now using these lessons to develop long-term intervention plans, ensuring that Basildon's pensioners get the help that they need, not just this winter, but every winter. Whilst engaging with our pensioner demographic, as we discussed at the time, was always going to be challenging, it is clear that our intervention has worked to support our elderly population. Almost 400 pensioner households in our borough have been supported to access additional financial support this winter because of this initiative. I'd like to thank Rob Manser and the Revs and Bens team, the housing and the community engagement teams for all of their hard work on this. Our pensioner community has noticed the support they have received from this administration, which is in sharp contrast to the lack of support they received when energy prices soared under the last administration of this council. I hope, Mr Mayor, that gives Council the comfort that they need, but as ever, I'm happy to answer questions via email if any member has them on the Warm Homes Guarantee, and I would encourage anybody listening to this, you have until the 31st of March to get applications in for that scheme. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Callaghan. Now move on to announcements from the Cabinet members. I have Councillor Smith.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. This is why I never, ever have written a speech, because the leader picked up some good things that I was going to talk about and I'd like to thank the leader for his support in tackling the blight of temporary accommodation. As I've said before, if we do not deal with temporary accommodation, it will be the side in the ship that will sink the ship, and it's so important we deal with it. So, brief and short point, and the Wickford and Billericay members will be delighted. I read to you the key points of this. Someone sent me a screenshot from Fake News Book about a temporary accommodation scheme we was working on, saying that we're seeing people from the Home Office brought to these new flats, which was complete rubbish, and I'd like to thank the leader for getting that front page on the Echo to put the truth out there, because when the council and Sempra, with my colleague Councillor Chris Hilliard, do all we can to get our own people out of temporary accommodation into proper housing or decent temporary accommodation, that people know it's us doing it and not the rubbish you see on Fake News Book. So, with regards to Wickford first, as it's called, 65 units in total of 1 and 2 bedroom temporary accommodation for Basildon Borough families awaiting settled accommodation. The building will be fully occupied by the 31st of March. I'm sure the Wickford members would like to relay that back to their constituents and make it's their own kith and kin welcome and happy there. These properties will ensure that families are living in suitable accommodation away from short-term options as B&Bs. And what is meant by that is that rather than having a shared kitchen, a shared bathroom, it will be almost like their home until we find them somewhere more secure. If I had a magic wand, I'd be building council houses till it was running out of fashion, but there's a debt ceiling on the HRA account, something we're working on with Councillor Callaghan and his excellent leadership skills to get the government to adjust that or possibly lift that quite high so we can build the council homes. But that's a discussion for another day. And I do wish, Mr Mayor, that the leader did have the power suggested by the opposition of powers of God, because we could lift that debt ceiling and make poor old Councillor Chris Hilliard very busy with Sempra building council homes, very busy. But we'll go on to the next site of a very similar nature. I'm sure the Billericay members here tonight will be familiar with it, the Billericay Rail Store. There's 41 units of 1 and 2 bedroom temporary accommodation, providing family accommodation for homeless families awaiting permanent housing solutions. Again, that's families not stuck in Southend, it's our own, and we'll be coming to that. We've been working very hard to stop London boroughs, but it's been very useful to have your help, Mr Mayor, to the leader. And then finally, we have secured 9.65 million from the Wave-Free Warm Home Scheme, formerly the Social Housing Decarb Fund, and I can see why they dropped the decarb rubbish. So what does that mean in real plain English terms? This will provide energy efficiency measures to 1,000 council housing stock over the next 3 years. And what does that mean in plain English? It means fitting proper windows, proper doors, proper insulation, so that when the tenant puts the heating on, their money's not going out through the window. Modern windows, modern doors. And if some of you wish to query this, over these last 10, 20 years, because of energy regulations and ratings, there's been a change into the standards of windows being fitted up and down the land. So we will be putting in the very best modern units into our housing stock to ensure they meet what's needed over these next 3 years. And that's almost, in conclusion, a tenth of our housing stock. So to wrap up, I need to also mention that rather than berate my predecessor, because it's not sporting when you're standing here on announcements, because they never get the right to reply, and that doesn't help residents. So we have already set up now our own, Gary, is it housing improvement? Our own housing improvement board, and that will start off with officers, then I will be put on there and tenants, because when we finally get our inspection, rather than say, well, I've not even been in the job a year, go and look at the other guy, he was there for 3 years. No, we're going to go through meticulously our housing stock, find out everything we need to know and start a proper programme, not how the area may or may not vote, but start out a proper programme of going through our housing stock and making it fit. So when we do get the guys knock on the door, because they're a bit like Ofsted from the government, the housing improvement team, we are ready for them. And if we have faults, we have been open and transparent, and you can't be wrong. And I'd rather be in partnership with whoever is dealing with housing at Whitehall and working with them, see if we can get some grants, like we've just discussed, to make our housing stock better. But rather than waiting for the knock on the door, we are taking proactive steps now. Find those faults, give it the boat test, and then we can start the measures to put that right. Thank you for your indulgence, members. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. Councillor McGarren.
Thank you very much. As you know, or hopefully you all know, the waste collection system will be revolutionised the week beginning in 28th of April. I'm so glad that former Councillor Craig Grimm is here to hear about all this, because he inadvertently give us a bit of a good skew on just how much it would cost to fix the bins. You actually exaggerated a bit, Craig, as is your want, but it was quite a lot.
Through the chair, should be talking to a member of the public like that.
Thank you.
It was being nice.
I thought that was pleasant.
No, you're not being nice at all. You never are. So get on with it.
Oh!
Councillor McGarren, just continue with your speech. Thank you.
I'm very upset, I'll just say that. I'm very upset. Last week, as hopefully you all know, the new bags, as opposed to the sacks that were rubbish and didn't work, that Councillor Blake introduced, were rolled out by our waste crews. And I'd like to say a great thank you to our waste crews. Yet again, brilliant job done. I've had councillors here, hands up. Anyone had many complaints, if any, about the bags not being delivered? No. Because our waste crews are doing a brilliant job, and if you haven't had them yet, you will be getting them. Don't worry about it. Don't panic. It's all right. And like I said, one of the differences between this administration and the previous administration is we get things done. Not only do we get things done, we don't blame people for our mistakes when we do make mistakes. And next week I'll be sending a letter to the waste crews telling them just how much I appreciate what they've done and what they've been through the last 2 years because of the previous administration's woeful behaviour. So Councillor Blake, if you want to bring it on, fine, bring it on. More good news. Grounds maintenance at Cabinet last week, those Councillor Baggett will know, others members may not know, we are this close to bringing back in-house the ground maintenance contract. We have been meticulous about it and we're still being meticulous about it. We are actually, at the start of the process, I was very clear, I would like to do it, but only if the finances work. All the indications are the finances work. There's a small saving, a very small saving, but a saving nonetheless. But more importantly, it will introduce a system that's more nimble and agile and responsive, that delivers for our residents in the way they want. And it will introduce a greater degree of pride and accountability. There'll be another update on that, but I couldn't be prouder that that is happening and we're bringing grounds maintenance back where it should be, back in-house.
There are no further announcements from Cabinet members. Right. Chairman of the Planning, Licensing, Audit, Risk and Standards and Appointments and Appeals Committees. Any announcements? Any announcements from the Chief Executive? None. Okay. I now call on the Councillor Reid, Chair of the Pitsy Area Committee, to provide an update on what has happened in Pitsy since the tragic road accident that took the lives of Darcy and Roman Basildon on the 1st of February. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As one of the councillors for Pitsy North West, we want to take this opportunity to update you on the actions we have taken on behalf of our community following the tragic events of February the 1st, which took the lives of Roman and Darcy Basildon. Our deepest sympathies remain with the family and friends and everyone affected by this heartbreaking loss. We know how deeply this has impacted our community, and we are committed to ensuring that action is taken to improve safety in our area. What we are doing. In response to community concerns, we have raised a petition demanding urgent safety improvements. We've held meetings with Essex County Council to push for immediate action. We've called for road safety measures, including improved street lighting to enhance visibility, upgrades to the zebra crossing for better pedestrian safety, and introduction of a speed survey and traffic calming measures to reduce speeding. Installation of a footpath to ensure safer pedestrian access. And I'm pleased to say this week the street lighting is in the process of being repaired, and the repainting of white lines along Ashlands has also begun. We will continue to put pressure on the relevant authorities until meaningful action is taken. This is not just about responding to a tragedy, it is about ensuring the safety of our community now and in the future. We urge everyone to sign the petition and to continue raising awareness. Your voice strengthens our case and helps us push for these much needed changes. We will keep you updated on progress and any other developments. In the meantime, if you have concerns or suggestions, please reach out to us. Let's stand together to make Pitsy North West safer for everyone. Thank you, Mr.
Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Reid, for that welcome update. If you'd like to switch off your mic, please, that would be fantastic. Thank you. Moving on to item number 5, petitions. I've not been noted of any petitions that have been submitted. Item number 6, public question time. There have been... Okay, do that, yeah. There have been 4 questions from the public, one of which is contained within the supplementary agenda pack, which has been sent to all members. Question number 1 is from Mr M. Yates to Councillor McGurran. Is Mr M. Yates present? Being not present, I will request that that be sent via email to the resident. Thank you. Question number 3. I'm skipping number 2 because Councillor Dell is not in the room. Councillor Dell Brown's not in the room at the moment. Question number 3. Mrs H. Cole to Councillor Gavin Callaghan, leader of the council. Is Mrs H. Cole in the room? Okay, then I'll ask that question. The reply to that question will be submitted via email. Thank you. Question number 4 is from Mr C. Rimmer to Councillor Gavin Callaghan. Is Mr Rimmer in the room? Thank you. Would you like to step forward to the mic and read out your question? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. A question to the Leader of the Council. With a particularly cold and biting winter behind us, what support and advice have Basildon Council given to residents facing rising energy bills?
Thank you, Mr Rimmer. Councillor Callaghan.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I think on behalf of almost 200,000 people that live in this borough, can I say how wonderful it is to see Mr Rimmer back on our screens again. What a treat for the eyes this is. Maybe it's another contender for the leadership at the AGM. Who knows, he might do a Mark Carney and get elected from outside and come in. As ever, unfortunately for Mr Rimmer, I think I may have stolen his thunder slightly in terms of the update that I gave on the Warm Homes Guarantee. But more generally, beyond our pensioner community, the council has been involved in a number of initiatives over the winter when it comes to rising energy bills. Through our outreach events with the Revenue and Benefits Outreach Bus, we have been out at multiple venues, including Pitsy Market, Billericay High Street, the main car park in Wickford, in Langdon Community Centre, in the George Hurd, in Notebridge, Ely House and others. Our officers have held support and awareness events here at the Basildon Centre at the Eastgate Centre, at Wickford Library, at the Humankind Cafe in Billericay, at the Sainsbury's in Costa on Cricketers Way, at the Costa Coffee at Pips Hill, in Wat Tyler Park, and in various community centres. Staff have always been available here at the Basildon Centre, and of course I've been updating people each week on my Facebook Lives as well, which I know you all watch religiously every week to see what we are saying and doing, and we've given a lot of information out there as well. So I hope Councillor Rimmer, old habits die hard, maybe one day in these new councils. Mr Rimmer, I hope will be satisfied that the council has done a lot during this winter, and of course we've learned lessons, as I said earlier on, and we'll be looking at what more we can do in the winter 2025-26. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hannan. Mr Rimmer, do you have a supplementary question?
I do indeed, Mr Mayor. Thank you very much. And thank you to the leader for a very comprehensive answer in terms of the initiatives that the council has taken in respect of that. But it pains me to ask, does the leader of the council support the advice to residents given by the Cabinet Member for Housing to implement a don't ask, don't tell policy regarding the unauthorised use of electricity from Essex County Council that was given in the Wesley Heights Area Committee on the 5th of March?
Thank you, Mr Rimmer. Councillor Callaghan.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, for not the first time. I haven't got a clue what Mr Rimmer is talking about, and if he has any concerns, any issues, or any evidence of impropriety, then he should make those allegations in the appropriate way. Councillor Smith has my full support in what he is doing to reduce temporary accommodation, to fix the mess that he inherited in the housing market, in the housing service, to get our private rented tenants housing that is up to scratch when it comes to introducing a private landlord licensing model. He has my full support in terms of the Housing Improvement Board that he mentioned earlier on. I would just say to Councillor Rimmer, there of course is more that we are doing to support residents during this winter. The Education Essentials Bursary, which was brought in to support students aged between 16 and 19 to help cover costs getting to and from school or college, and we're also maximising the spend of the discretionary payments for shortfalls in rent and council tax. To date, we've spent about £500,000 in DHPs to support rent and just over £54,000 in exceptional hardship payments to support those in council tax arrears or those who have fallen into council tax arrears because of rising energy prices. I have also today seen that the Labour government, on top of almost £10 million to this council, another £10 million that the Labour government has given to Basildon in regard to bringing down the energy bills of our tenants in those council homes. We have also seen from the government more that they want us to do around engagement with our residents, and they are supporting us with that as well. So, Mr Mayor, I just say to Mr Rimmer, there is an awful lot going on in terms of the substantive. We on this side of the chamber will focus on policy, we will focus on delivery. They are the things that we will do. We will leave salacious gossip and accusations to an opposition bang out of ideas.
Thank you, Councillor Callaghan. Question number 2 from Ms H. Cole to Councillor Del Brown. I see that she is not in the room. That also will be replied to via email. Moving on to 7 members' question time. There have been 4 questions submitted by members of the council. 1 supplementary question is permitted. If the time limit is reached before then, the member who has submitted the question will receive a response in writing. Question number 1 is from Councillor Emma Callaghan to the leader, Councillor Gavin Callaghan. Would you like to read out your question, please, Councillor Mrs Callaghan?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. This is a question for the leader in the capacity of the Cabinet Member for Finance, Resources and Regeneration. For an update on the progress of the Pitsy Community Diagnostic Centre, it would be helpful to understand the latest position and any expected timelines. Thank you. Ain't got time for that.
Leader, thank
I'm
you.
never there because I'm always here, Councillor Turner. There you go. I thank Councillor Callaghan for that question. Demolition on the site is progressing well, with the majority of the place now removed, as well as the foundations and the ground beams. The ex-housing office site is also being cleared, and some surveys are still needed in that area and will be done shortly. The contractors are now working on the library, removing the roof tiles ahead of the dismantling of the main library structure. The Mid and South Essex Trust has obtained their fixed price for construction, and once that contract is approved and completed, the contractor will work on the final River Stage 5 construction ready design plans. We are waiting for the final build programme. Once that is completed, the construction is programmed to be finished in autumn 2026, so in around 18 months from now. The Council has continued to liaise with community hirers and the Pitsy Activity Centre Committee on progress, ensuring that we continue to support their ongoing delivery during this period, utilising alternative facilities as appropriate.
Thank you, Leader. Councillor Callaghan, do you have a supplementary question?
Yes, I do, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. And Leader, thank you for your response. It's nice to chat like this. In June 2024, Pitsy councillors were made aware that the council's contribution to Pitsy Community Diagnostic Centre has risen from 2.6 million to 3.4 million due to design changes and rising costs. Can the Cabinet member confirm how this extra funding is being covered, whether it affects other projects, and if there is a risk of further cost increases? Thank you.
Leader. Ask me an easier one than that. So what I would say in terms of the funding, the Community Diagnostic Centre was one of the Boris Johnson fantasy projects. There was never actually any funding for the Pitsy CDC. The Conservative administration took a planning application through, but it was never actually funded. I'm pleased that since July, the government, and particularly Wes Streeting, the Secretary of State for Health and Social Care, has confirmed that their funding will be made available by the government to build out the CDC. So it is yet another example of the Conservative Party promising things and the Labour Party delivering things.
Thank you, Leader. Question number 2 from Councillor Chris Hilliard to Councillor Melissa McGeorge, Cabinet Member for Community and Safety. Councillor Hilliard, would you like to read out your question? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, everyone. My question is regarding residential estates. Could the Cabinet Member for Community Safety Enforcement please outline what steps the Council is open to taking to clean up our residential estates for discarded shopping trolleys?
Good question.
Councillor McGeorge.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I'm grateful to Councillor Hilliard for raising the question about this, which is very important for the well-being and cleanliness of our neighbourhoods, something which we are investing significantly in with the return to weekly residual waste collections and the reintroduction of the crunch service. The vast majority of our residents do the right thing with their shopping trolleys when they're finished and will return them to the supermarket. They are property of the supermarkets, and as such, this is an issue which the Council shouldn't need to get involved in. However, it is something that we can get involved in if the supermarkets are not going to keep up their end of the bargain and collect them from our residential neighbourhoods in a timely manner. If we have to get involved, this will come at a charge to the supermarkets for each shopping trolley removed, as well as a daily storage charge, a charge for disposing of them should the supermarkets not collect them from us. To help my fellow councillor and his ward colleagues, our hard-working cleansing teams have been out removing any shopping trolleys they find across the borough. This week alone, we've picked up over 200. But this will not and cannot continue, and I'll be asking officers to look at removing and recharging supermarkets should this situation continue.
Absolutely.
Councillor Hilliard, do you have a supplementary question?
Yes, I do. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Councillor McGeorge. We, the councillors of Pitsy South East, and I'm sure the rest of us, thank you for taking this as seriously as we've been over the last few months. As you state, the onus needs to be put back on the supermarkets to take full responsibility and ownership of the problem. I look forward to working alongside you in making this come to fruition. can I have reassurance that you will be in contact with the supermarkets to make them aware that we have the ability to take control of the problem if they do not step up? Thank you.
Thank you very much. You have my word that I'll be contacting local supermarkets, and I already have officers looking at space to store all the trolleys.
Thank you, Councillor McGeorge. Question number 3 from Councillor Andrew Schrader to the leader, Councillor Gavin Callaghan. Would you like to stand up and read your question, please, Councillor Schrader?
Well done, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. With your indulgence, I'll expurgate the typos, for which I apologise. Does the leader remain quite relaxed about the London Borough of Havering using a unit at the Eastgate Shopping Centre as temporary homeless accommodation, and does he still believe there is not any chance at all that this will go ahead, as he stated on Facebook in January? Thank you, sir.
Councillor Callaghan.
Thank you. I am pleased that Councillor Schrader is an avid viewer of my Facebook Live. Yes, I am quite relaxed about this, and yes, I still believe that there isn't any chance at all that this will go ahead as TA for the London Borough of Havering.
Councillor Schrader, do you have a supplementary question?
I thank the leader for that reply. For what it's worth, I congratulate him on acquiring the properties on Market Road in Wickford, probably a prudent acquisition, particularly as it's denied them to the London Borough of Newham. But he's quoted as saying, quite rightly, we can't buy everything. But we know this pressure is going to keep coming from London boroughs, and among his recent acquisitions were some properties in Kent. So now we're following suit and exporting our homeless problems. My question to the leader is, how far is too far? Can he confirm if the council has any plans to send our homeless further afield, say Birmingham? Does he share my concern that the further away we send homeless applicants, the vast majority of whom are not boat people, as you read on Facebook, and I'm glad that he corrected that story, the vast majority of people who present to this council as homeless are local people, predominantly vulnerable, younger people. The further removed they will be from family connections, their friends, their community, and the vital support networks that prevent them becoming isolated and enable them to ultimately sustain a permanent tenancy. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Schrader. Councillor Callaghan.
Okay, there's multiple questions in that, Mr. Mayor. So let me just say, on the issue of the site in Wickford and the frankly deplorable messaging that was going around and the rumours, and Councillor Myers and I talked about that on Tuesday evening. I did not intend to make it public that the council had taken a lease on that deal. I do not think that we should be putting targets and stigmas on people around our borough. I think it is wrong that we had to do that. On every single street that we all live in, there will be people living in homes that they own, in private properties that they're renting, in council properties, in HRAs, and we don't know any of the details about that, nor should we. It's none of our business. But on this, we've got ourselves into a situation where a minority of idiots decided to put a story out there that this was an asylum seeker hotel for people fleeing some of the worst persecution imaginable in Sudan and other areas to come to this country. And I just say we need to be very careful about what we do and don't put into the public domain. In terms of how far is too far, we passed at Cabinet an allocations policy that told you how far was too far. I'm sure that a former Housing Cabinet member read the allocations policy. There is an ABCD list on that that he can have a look at. But what I would say to Councillor Schrader is that I thank him for this newfound concern about temporary accommodation and London boroughs buying up the stock in our borough. If only he had shown as much interest when he was in charge of the housing brief, we would not have inherited a service with spiralling TA costs that threatened to bankrupt Basildon Council. So I know what I'm talking about in relation to the Eastgate Shopping Centre. I'm not going to go into commercial details of that scheme in this forum because that is not appropriate, and I understand how to negotiate and get the best deal for the taxpayer. But let us not forget that when we look around this borough, we should compare our records on this. On the Conservative Party's watch, Regent's House on the Gore, the former DWP site, was converted from office to residential. The Tories failed to buy it, so the London boroughs did. On the Tories' watch, Trafford House, a jewel in the crown of our town centre, the former HQ of Ford Motors, was put on the market for sale after an office to resi conversion. The Tories refused to buy it, so the London boroughs took long leases on those properties. On the Tories' watch, Northgate House on High Pavement in the town centre was converted from office to residential, put on the market for sale. They refused to get involved, and so 3 different London boroughs came in and purchased a floor of flats each on that one. So on their watch, you got incompetence, you got laziness, and you ended up with London. Compare it to our watch. In 2019, Acorn House on Great Oaks, the former Yellow Advertiser building, converted from office to residential, with the landlord agreeing to a deal to sell to a London borough. I intervened, negotiated a better deal, and we bought Acorn House, putting 94 brand new council homes into our stock. Not London, but Basildon first. The autumn of 2024, the Rouse Store building in Billericay, marketed to London boroughs for temporary accommodation. I intervene, we get the building, 41 units, opening in a matter of weeks, as we heard earlier, for TA families to move into, not London, Basildon first. And then in February, as we've been discussing, the London Borough of Newham planned to take the Verse building in Wickford. What happens? We intervene, we negotiate a better deal, and those 65 units are for Basildon and not for the London Borough of Newham. So I am happy to argue, debate and answer questions all day long on temporary accommodation, because when it comes to the Eastgate or many of the other buildings around this borough, I know what I'm talking about on this. It isn't going to be TA for Havering, and the people of this borough can trust me, because I've got form when it comes to stopping London boroughs from buying our homes and fighting for the residents of Basildon.
Thank you, Councillor Callaghan. Question number 4 from Councillor Schrader to Councillor Power, the Jobs and Skills and Local Economy. Councillor Schrader, would you like to read out your question, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Can the Cabinet member confirm whether the amended Basildon First Charter, including the 12-month properties are to be exclusively marketed to Basildon residents, is compulsory or voluntary?
Thank you, Councillor Schrader. This report did state that this would be a voluntary pledge, and this would encourage developers to work with the council in the best interests of our residents. 2 of our main priorities are to build homes for local people and to back Basildon businesses, and we are asking all developers to make key promises around local homes for our residents, supporting development of skills, mobilising a local supply chain, supporting inclusive and sustainable developments and public spaces. We want to show our residents that we are committed to putting them first. Now, as you may know, I brought this report to Cabinet last week, and I had asked to make several changes to strengthen the Charter and to detail these commitments further. The document has been shared today, and this is an agenda item tonight, and I hope that you can see this as a great opportunity to support our residents across the borough. Thank you.
Councillor Schrader, do you have a supplementary question?
I thank the Cabinet member for that important clarification, because I feel it's been quite obscured, because the social media posts from the leader and others called this a guarantee, which some might find misleading, unintentionally, I'm sure. Did she not share my concern, however, at the comments made by the leader at Cabinet last week, in the one breath criticising the former Conservative administration for fighting the residents' corner on monster tower blocks in the town centre, then in another breath making a rather blasé statement that if developers refuse to sign up to the Charter, the Planning Committee might just refuse their application and will fight it at appeal, when even the report before us makes clear the Charter has, quote, no legal standing. That would be fighting expensive appeals we know we can't win, would it not?
No, Councillor Schrader, I am not concerned, and as we will debate later on this evening, this is not a concern for us. We are standing up for our residents.
That concludes item 7. We're now moving on to item 8, the Basildon First Charter. Councillor Power, Cabinet Member for Jobs, Skills and Local Economy. You have 10 minutes and do not require a seconder.
Sorry, thank you. Moved quicker than I thought it was. Mr Mayor, let's cast our minds back to 2021, when this charter was first introduced. It was a positive step forward to secure property and social value for our residents to make Basildon a better place to live for the people that live here. Developers agreed and promised to market homes to residents, create jobs and an inclusive future for the borough. Unfortunately, alongside many other positive things, the previous administration didn't feel this was important to continue, so tonight we are refreshing the Basildon First Charter, as well as strengthening our commitment to our residents. We see and hear it every day talking to our residents. They raise concerns about the new developments and the housing coming to the borough. Growth is positive and we should welcome it, but we also need to put Basildon first. We brought this charter to Cabinet last week and have put forward a few key changes. I see this as an evolving document and I've asked for it to come to full council as we need enforcement and it needs the chance for members to enhance and improve the outcome for our residents. We are putting our planning officers on the front foot to champion what we need in this borough. Today, an amended document has been shared that strengthens the expectation that properties will be marketed for a minimum of 12 months, and we're making it compulsory that in every planning report, officers notify the planning members on whether developers have signed the charter and are committed to building homes for local Basildon people. It will then be in the gift of the planning committee members to determine whether this is the kind of developer we want building homes in our borough. We will report on the successes and outcomes of the charter on an annual basis as part of the infrastructure funding statement. We know there is a demand and that many residents, especially first-time buyers, are struggling to find homes they can afford. We have 10,000 24 to 34-year-olds still living at home with mum and dad across this borough, unable to afford to buy or rent in a place they call home. In fact, property prices in Basildon have risen steadily, making it harder for local people to get on a property ladder or even find an affordable rent. For example, as reported on ONS late last year, the average price for a first-time home in Basildon was around £301,000, and this is putting home ownership out of reach for so many local people, and private rent also rose by 7.1%. That's why this charter is so important. The Basildon First Charter is our way of saying loud and clear that this council is serious about putting our community first. Too often developers have promised us the earth but delivered far less. That's not good enough anymore. If a developer wants to say there isn't sufficient demand to support this charter, despite the worst housing crisis in this borough, let alone the country has ever seen, we're prepared to stand up for our residents. We know there is demand and we believe this offers our people protection and are prepared to fight for it. Developers will be expected to market their properties to Basildon residents for a minimum of 12 months, will be expected to and held to account on mobilising the local workforce and supply chain, ensuring that our construction businesses across the borough are securing jobs and being part of building their community. They will commit to creating sustainable and inclusive spaces and ensure they connect with other communities throughout the lifetime of their development. This administration has proved time and time again that nothing worth doing is ever easy, but this charter can and will be delivered. This isn't just a list of good intentions, it is enforceable through Section 106 agreements. We'll ensure that developers are legally bound to deliver what they promise, and these legal agreements will spell out exactly what developers must provide and have agreed to by signing the charter, and we'll follow through to make sure they meet their commitments. Our message is simple. If you want to build in Basildon, you must deliver for Basildon. We're not here to block development, far from it. We welcome developers who genuinely want to improve Basildon, but we'll make it clear from the start what we expect. Whether it's affordable homes, better roads or improved community spaces, those commitments need to be built into their plans right from the get-go. And crucially, we'll be holding them to account to make sure they deliver. This is about making sure progress benefits our residents, the people who live, work and raise their families in Basildon. We want to build a stronger, fairer community, and this charter is a big step in that direction. So, Mr Mayor, this administration stands firm, we're putting our residents first and we're determined to make sure developers do the same. So I do encourage all members to join together and vote for this tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Power. The matter is now open for debate. Please indicate if you wish to speak on this. Councillor Schrader.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Well, I probably rather tipped my hand, didn't I, with my earlier questions to the Cabinet member. I have some concerns, but I preface my remarks by saying I fully supported the Basildon First Charter when it was introduced by the previous Conservative administration in 2021. Now, to be fair, that also included an exclusivity clause stating that properties would be marketed exclusively to borough residents for 3 months before going onto the open market. So the principle of doing that is established, and I don't have a problem with it. But I think most people would consider 3 months broadly reasonable. Now, reasonableness is an important factor here because it's what a planning inspector will consider at an appeal. Is the request reasonable? Is it reasonable to expect a developer to sit on properties for a whole year? How difficult will a developer find it to procure a viability study that says it isn't viable? Not very, I wouldn't have thought, if experience of securing affordable housing on the planning committee is any guide. In the risk management implications at the very top of page 23 of the agenda, the report talks about legal and viability challenges. It's worth reading it out in full. Quote, requiring an up to 12-month exclusive local marketing period cannot be legally enforced unless agreed through a Section 106 agreement. Developers may challenge the legality of the requirement due to the impact on the financial feasibility of certain developments, end quote. It goes on to say further down, quote, if there is insufficient local demand for properties within the initial 12-month period, developers may face financial risk, which could deter future investment, end quote. So I find myself torn because fundamentally I think the Charter is a good thing. I don't even disagree per se with the 12-month exclusivity clause. I'm just not sure it's particularly realistic, and whilst developers are not a group with whom I have a huge amount of sympathy, I'm pretty sure it'll be widely regarded as unreasonable and therefore not enforceable. Of course, a good yardstick would be to know how the old Charter performed with the existing 3-month clause. Were we successful in getting developers to sign up to that? Do we have any reliable data on compliance? Do we know how many borough residents were able to secure a property explicitly thanks to the exclusivity clause? I don't know. If the Cabinet member has that information to hand, I tried to ask those questions nearly a fortnight ago. Even though I emailed the officer named on the Cabinet report under inquiries too, I nevertheless got a reply from the new Assistant Director of Planning referring my question to some other team of officers, and I've heard nothing since. If the Cabinet member doesn't know off the top of her head, which is not unreasonable, maybe she could give her officers a nudge. I know she knows them all because she used to be one of them back when she was one of my officers. A very good one, if I may say so. I'm loath to vote against this, Mr. Mayor, given much of it is still good and delivers important social value for our borough. It's principally the leader's bellicose litigiousness I find troubling. I fear he's trying to turn the Charter into a sort of toothless paper tiger that overpromises and will underdeliver, and resorts to idle threats we can't back up. And as I said, calling it the 12-month guarantee when it isn't really just seems disingenuous to me. But ultimately, I thought it was a good thing when we introduced it, and I still think it's a broadly good thing now. But I really do think that trying to make signing up to it in some way conditional for all developments lacks a healthy dose of realism. Look, if he gets away with it, nobody would be happier than me to have been proved wrong. Because ultimately, I want all the things the Charter promises for our borough to be delivered. Of course I do. I really just do think that the sabre rattling is fraught with both financial and reputational risk to this council. So I'm minded to abstain. At the end of the day, you don't need my vote to get it through. You're the administration, it's your call to make. If it works, more strength to your arm. But I think the belligerent posturing is likely to have been counterproductive. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Schrader. Are there any more speakers? If not, no, Councillor Callaghan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I wasn't planning to speak on this one, but Councillor Schrader tempts me by devoting 90% of his speech to talking about me. When he talks about the test of reasonableness, I suppose what I find strange about the Conservatives' argument tonight is, do you or do you not think that 12 months is or is not reasonable? If you think about the developments that we have been building out in this borough over the course of the last few years, would 12 months have been unreasonable when a development takes 5, 6, 7 years to build out? I don't believe that it would. I referenced in the Cabinet report last week the issue about risk, and I read it out and I said very clearly, I don't buy that. And I think it's our job as members to challenge the advice. Officers can give us advice. We don't necessarily always have to agree with the advice. I don't agree that it isn't financially feasible with the current market demand in this borough to be able to provide that guarantee for our residents. There has never been a housing crisis as large as the one that we face since 1949 in this borough. The number of homes that are needed, as we have talked about in all of my Meet the Leader events across the piece, the number of homes that we need are huge. And you know, I know people don't want to acknowledge the OAN, but it is a real thing. So when he says that he wouldn't go for it, and he's basically made a speech tonight basically saying that he totally lacks any courage to stand up for the people of Basildon in the Charter, I just think that's an odd position for the Conservative Party to take, but that's fine. I'll leave it to Councillor Power to talk about where the Charter that we brought in 2021, where that has actually given success. But I want to just make one point, which is around another part. We can get lost in talking about the numbers when it comes to the how many months the properties are to be marketed exclusively for Basildon residents. But I am more interested as well in the local Labour promise and the issue around supply chain promise. And again, I want to use this opportunity to say, with the number of homes and the 4 out of 5 town centre regeneration schemes that we have got going on in this borough, we should be creating jobs for life for every Basildon, Bricky, Chippy and Sparky in this borough. There should be absolutely no excuse for that. And to any of our developers, particularly developers, let's be clear about it, who are winning contracts from Sempra Homes, or they are winning contracts from any other council build-out programme, they must follow through on supply chain promises. So it is not good enough to pay lip service, sign a charter, turn up at Meet the Buyer event, and then not follow through with getting our Basildon businesses into the supply chain. And I am hearing far too often from our businesses that they are not getting the access to the opportunities in the supply chain that this charter is supposed to guarantee. So what we definitely do need to do, and I'm pleased Councillor Power has brought this to Council tonight, I'm pleased it came back to Cabinet, it will need to come back again in the summer. We need to look collectively, I hope as 42 members, but also in terms of our officer teams as well, at enforcement across the piece. And look at enforcement in terms of contract management. So if people are winning tenders and they are promising to create apprenticeships and they are promising to put Basildon businesses into the supply chain, then they better bloody do it. And if they don't, they will not be coming back here getting any more contracts off of Basildon Council. And we as 42 members, we should be explicit about that. Even Tom Cruise agrees that we should be explicit about that. And I do just say this, still there. It is not mission impossible. We can deliver the Basildon First Charter because I genuinely believe, I know this has been said by a certain somebody who I admire, but you are either disruptors or you are disrupted. And I do think that in our housing market, we have got to fight for Basildon residents. We've got to fight for Basildon businesses. There is enough work and there are enough properties to go round to meet the demand for housing and for jobs. And I think it is testament that within the first 12 months of this administration coming back, we are prioritising the Basildon First Charter. We are looking at how, far from it being a toothless puppy or whatever it was that I was accused of, we want to give it real teeth. so that those developers know that you can't argue with a tiger when your head is in its mouth. So, Mr. Mayor, I urge members tonight, see this in the spirit that it is intended, get behind it, let's refine it, let's come back together so that all of our residents know and all of the businesses know that all 42 members have got their back.
Thank you, Councillor Callaghan. Councillor Yacoub.
It comes up my name.
Oh, was it? No.
Can't people think of it?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, as an administration, we have been focused on just simply getting on with the job, not just talking about it. Whether that is showing up to the crunch and getting our hands dirty, visiting our community groups, or delivering presents to children in temporary accommodation, we have taken action. The merit of this charter speaks for itself. Not only are we requiring developers to market this to Basildon residents for 12 months, we are also setting out a series of clear commitments that put Basildon residents first. Our local housing promise commits us to ensuring that there are affordable and accessible homes. Our local labour promise commits us to supporting local jobs and apprenticeships. Our inclusivity promise ensures that developments align with environmental goals. And our supply chain promise prioritises local businesses and services when sourcing materials and labour. Now, we've heard the Conservatives stand up and talk about standing up for this borough more times than I can count. They've made grand statements about resisting developers, pushing back against government housing targets, and their favourite line, shouting about handing developers a blank cheque. But tonight is the real test to see if they have what it takes to stand up for Basildon residents when it really matters. Unfortunately, Mr. Mayor, I can already predict what the Conservatives will do tonight. Instead of commending the changes that we're proposing, they have, and we've already seen it with Councillor Schrader, they're claiming that this exclusivity period that changes it from 3 months to 12 months will scare off developers and cause them to walk away because of the higher standards that we are setting. We know that that is complete nonsense. These are reasonable demands. This is our borough and we have every right to set the bar high for what gets built here. If developers want to build in Basildon, they need to meet our standards. They'll also make ridiculous claims that the 12-month exclusivity period will hurt profits if there isn't enough demand. As my colleagues on this side of the chamber have said today, we certainly do not have a demand problem. Basildon has over 3,000 people on the housing waiting list, and we are more than willing to work with developers to find solutions, but our priority will always be delivering homes for Basildon residents, not protecting developer profits. We must remember that this charter is not new. It was part of the Labour-led administration's Basildon Town Centre regeneration strategy and was adopted in 2021. The Conservatives have had 3 years to renew it or adjust it, and they did nothing beyond passing what we'd already put into motion. It's easy to criticise from the sidelines, but since 2021, their track record includes scrapping the local plan, wasting millions of pounds on lost planning appeals, failing to address the growing number of young adults stuck living at home with their parents. So now, when we are taking action and bringing this forward, they have no recourse but to get on side with it and send a strong message to developers that this council is united in its belief that Basildon residents get first dibs for 12 months. Basildon Homes for Basildon People is not just a slogan, it is a prerequisite for future developments. Mr. Mayor, this charter stands up for Basildon residents in a real and tangible way. I'm keen to see if the Conservatives will have the integrity to actually vote for it tonight, or if they'll hide behind disingenuous excuses and shamefully abstain. This vote is the real test. Do the Conservatives care about all Basildon Borough residents, or does it only matter when Billericay is called into question? The Conservatives have no choice but to back this charter or expose themselves as the empty vessels we know they are.
Yeah.
Councillor Ferguson.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'd like to start tonight by thanking Councillor Power for bringing forward the Basildon First Charter, and I've had the privilege of working alongside Councillor Power in the Cabinet over the last year and seen firsthand the difference that having a social value expert tasked with driving forward schemes and innovations for our residents is actually able to deliver. Now, Mr Mayor, I came into politics to be able to deliver for local residents, and I'm incredibly proud to be part of an administration that is committed to delivering for our residents. And when we see issues, we're committed to tackling them head on and putting in the framework for delivery. The Basildon First Charter shaped the direction of delivery that we want for our residents to be able to benefit from. At its core, the Basildon First Charter is about creating opportunity, the very same value that was created, the cornerstone of creating our borough 75 years ago under that great reforming Labour government led by Clement Attlee, and is the very same difference that we are seeking to make as we shape our next 75 years in the future. Mr Mayor, there will be lots of focus tonight, and quite rightly so, on what our expectations are from developers in terms of house building. We've heard tonight from Councillor Power directly on the number of individuals that are between 24 and 34 that are seeking to be able to get on the housing ladder, that are seeking to be able to get an opportunity, to be able to have a place to call their own. That demand is there. This Basildon First Charter gives us that opportunity to make sure that residents are there able to benefit from it. And like many of us, our personal experiences are the cornerstone and shape the actions that we undertake when we come into politics. My personal experience, and I'm sure if you ask my parents, they would say that I outstood my welcome when I stayed at home. There just wasn't the availability of properties or the price for them for me to be able to get on the housing ladder in the first place. What we're seeking to be able to do tonight by being able to refresh the Charter is by putting in place those measures that enable those individuals to be able to get on the housing ladder, to be able to have a place that they can call their own. With homes comes jobs, with jobs comes opportunity, and with opportunity, families and residents across this borough are able to benefit. One of the very first committee meetings I ever sat in 2018 was sitting on the Strategic Planning and Infrastructure Committee. One of the things that alarmed me the moment I read that 2,000-page report was talking around the statistics of unemployment in our borough. The unemployment rate in Basildon being higher than the national average. That should shame us all. A borough that is the economic powerhouse of Essex, not delivering for residents, but not being able to create job opportunities for our residents to be able to access. What we are saying very clearly tonight through the Basildon First Charter is if you're going to build in the borough, you've got to be able to offer jobs and opportunities to those residents that live in the borough. And what we've done throughout the last 12 months is have a cabinet that is joined up and making sure that all areas of our portfolios get to benefit from all the decisions that we take. Only a couple of weeks ago, the Chief Executive and I were joined by the Assistant Director for Leisure and Communities, where we met with the Arts Council. We met with the Arts Council, we took them round the borough and took them into our town centre. And as we were talking to the Arts Council, we were having conversations around what opportunities we're able to create, what's the frameworks that we can create for our residents to be able to benefit from, what's the engagement that we have with employers. What we're seeking to be able to do tonight, and the difference that we're making, and we have made over the last 12 months, we're refreshing tonight, is giving us greater opportunity to be able to engage with employers so that when they come forward with schemes and innovations that they want to bring into the borough, we can actually shape them and deliver local programmes that are impactful to be able to tackle the problems and the challenges that we face within our borough. We see in the Basildon First Charter tonight the commitment to refreshing parks' open spaces, creating opportunities for leisure environments and play spaces for individuals to be able to benefit from. Basildon First Charter is absolutely about jobs. It's absolutely about homes. It's absolutely about creating spaces. But it's also about delivering for residents and being able to look them in the eye and say, we've actually stood up for you to make sure that residents get the benefits of all the change and all the difference that we're making tonight. So I urge all members to get behind this and actually start delivering for our residents, which we hope to achieve. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Ferguson. Councillor Larkin.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'd just like a little reminder, perhaps to Councillor Schrader, and the Conservative members of our Planning Committee. I would like to remind them we must have an open mind to all our planning applications. It never seems like that. It's the leader of our council never gets involved with our planning. Whether you might go, oh, Mr Blake, but he doesn't. The Conservative members from our planning committee, they used to be cabinet members on the planning committee, 11 of them, which was absolutely ridiculous. That's why we got into so much trouble. It wasn't right. Most of them, the Conservative members that are on our committee, appear in the local paper. Actually, they determine this before they actually sit on our committee, which is wrong. I always say to them, you've got to be open-minded. You must be. If you're not open-minded, this is not right. Our charter says different. Thank you, Councillor Power. We need homes, social homes, the whole spectre. And this must happen in our council. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Larkin. Councillor Baggott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Yacoub, for reminding us about the appeals that we fought. I think that it's worth just visiting that for a moment as to why we fought those appeals, because, of course, in the previous administration, prior to us, when Councillor Callaghan was the leader and working for Kratos, he came up with plans for office tower blocks, massive tower blocks, in the centre of the town. Now, the public were violently opposed to that, and as a result of that opposition, which we said we would support the public and vote and fight against them, we got into administration, and we did what we said we would do as an election manifesto. They've been talking about the bins. We were
Point
talking
of order,
about
Mr. Mayor.
stopping the office blocks.
Point of order has been raised. Thank you. I need to take the point of order, Councillor Baggott.
Thank you, Councillor Yacoub, for raising it.
Councillor Baggott, can you sit down while I take the point of order? Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I propose that Councillor Baggott is silenced for the rest of the night because of the fact that he's chosen to impugn the reputation of a member.
Hold on, let me take advice on this. Councillor Yacoub, do you have a seconder for your motion?
I do, Councillor Smith.
That being seconded, we now take a vote. That the Constitution is quite clear that if a motion is brought forward, it is to be voted on without debate.
Mr. Mayor, as a point of clarity, could I ask specifically what they think was impugning Councillor Callaghan? The fact that he worked for Kratos, or the fact that he was leader? Which is the thing that is being classed as impugning?
Mr. Mayor, I'm not going to entertain that. The point of order is 15.14. Can we go to the vote, please?
That is procedure, and as it's in the Constitution, I need to follow the Constitution and proceed with the vote. The motion is that Councillor Baggott be silenced for the rest of the meeting. Thank you. So all those in favour, please indicate. Thank you. Thank you. A vote is taking place. Thank you. All those against, please indicate. Are there any abstentions? We have 3 abstentions. Therefore, the vote is carried. And Councillor Bagger, I ask you to be silent for the rest of the meeting. Thank you.
Shame on you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. We're in the middle of debate here. Members, thank you. I'm chairing the meeting here. You'll be silent. Thank you. That being done, I now call upon Councillor Brown to speak to the motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think we've heard lots of nonsense tonight. I just want to bring it back to what this chart is about. It's about the fact that the people of Basildon believe and expect fairness from this council. They expect to see benefits from development in their own communities. They want homes that are genuinely affordable, jobs that offer real opportunity, and investment that strengthens this borough. For too long, we've seen homes that don't always meet needs, that jobs that are created but are taken up by those who do not live locally, and major developments that take from this community without giving back. Thank you, Councillor Schrader. I'm sure you're listening and intently interested. Clearly, this has to change. And we made the decision that this would change, that no longer would we follow years of Tory decline, ignoring our residents and not producing opportunities. And we decided, way back in 2020, that we bring forward that Basildon Charter. We are now strengthening that. It's a promise that Basildon's future belongs to the people who live here, who work here, and who contribute to this town. As a Basildon Cabinet Member for Planning and Infrastructure, I work really closely with our planning officers. I have no doubt in their professionalism and their commitment to ensure that developers are compliant with this charter. And I find it really frustrating when I hear members of the opposition saying that that can't be done.
They're good at it, though.
What this charter means in real terms is that we will have homes first marketed for local people. Too many of our homes are snapped up by investors and landlords, and therefore local families struggle to buy. The rudeness over there is unbelievable. If you're in my classroom, you'd be out by now.
Go through the chair, please.
Too many...
Don't mess with Miss Brown.
Yeah. 10,000 young people we know at the moment are living with their parents because they can't afford to move out. We know that we've got around 3,800 households who are waiting for a council home. This charter requires developers to market new homes to Basildon residents first. How can you seriously object to that? There will be jobs and apprenticeships for local people for the next 20 years. We're talking about brickies, chippies, sparkies being able to ensure that they can take care of their families, work in a borough they believe in, and have a job for life. Every major development must include this. In Basildon, we have a strong base of skilled trade people, and they deserve a fair chance. This charter requires developers to buy materials and services from local suppliers, ensuring that Basildon's economy continues to benefit from development. The council will hold meet-a-buyer events, and this will ensure that those businesses have those opportunities. It's about fairness. This is about Basildon Borough's future, and that's why we need this charter. A young couple should not have to compete with investors in order to get a home. Local tradespeople should not be excluded while a developer hires workers from elsewhere. A Basildon-based business should not be overlooked with lucrative contracts that they are going to be awarded out of the borough. This charter ensures this does not happen. This is not about politics and party lines. This is about what is right for Basildon. Every councillor in this chamber, no matter what your political affiliation is, represents people who are going to benefit from this charter. So tonight I expect every councillor to vote for this, to be clear with our residents that businesses and residents are the priority of this whole council. This is a policy that supports our local economy. It's a policy that every councillor, regardless of your party, can get behind. Let's send a message that Basildon Council backs its people. Let's vote for the charter. Thank you.
Councillor Myers.
Thank you. Adele, can you turn your mic off?
Oh, sorry.
Thank you very much, Mr Mayor. First of all, I'd like to take a bit of umbrage with Councillor Larkin about the planning decisions and telling everyone that we're all predetermined. That is a serious legal matter. We give our declarations of interest at planning meetings, and you're saying that we turn up to meetings predetermined. So I will be bringing up with the monitoring officer tomorrow to discuss. In terms of this charter, whilst the principles here I fundamentally agree with, and I agree with what Councillor Schrader said about Basildon hosts and Basildon people is correct. I do have issue with 2 points of this, and I will explain why I won't be supporting this. In the local connections requirements and Part 3, it says they attended school within our borough. Well, that could have been 20 years ago. They could have moved elsewhere. They could have moved to Norfolk, Suffolk, come back into Basildon, and then they'll be on the list for a home. That's wrong. When I go through the initial 12 months for Basildon people, we also have the other things that during the 12 months of marketing, as an alternative to the local connection criteria, so not being from Basildon, key worker criteria also be applied, which at least one at a dwelling's purchase must meet. So I'll go through the criteria. Staff working in social care, childcare, education and health sectors, staff employed by local government, including controlled companies, staff employed by health bodies, staff working in social housing, environmental health, waste, SMEs and highway sectors, utilities, construction, research and development and skilled maintenance workers, staff working in the criminal justice and law and order sectors, fire and rescue workers, rail workers and passenger transport staff. What's missing from this list? Our military families, our veterans in this Basildon First Charter. Why aren't they included in the option in this charter for 12 months of new homes to be built for them? That is outrageous. That is outrageous. That's outrageous.
Thank you. There's only one speaker. Councillor Myers, continue.
Thank you very much, Mr Mayor. Now, whilst the full idea behind this charter is something that I can support, I still don't think that 12 months in a planning situation is a reasonable request to a developer who's going to come along and say, I want to build 800 houses here in the borough. It'd be in the local plan, which you're going to push through. It may not be this grey belt argument where it's 50% affordable housing. They have to just meet 30 or 35% affordable housing, where it's said in the local plan. And of course, they can come along, big giants like Barratt, Bellway, etc., Taylor Wimpey, and come along and say, well, that's rubbish. It's the enforceability behind it that I have another issue with, because how on earth do you enforce this? How on earth, because they can come along and say that the planning decision comes along and they say we have to sign an obligation, the developer will go along and say, well, that's rubbish. They'll take that to JR before it goes to planning. They'll say the planning obligation they need to sign in the Section 106 it's not legally enforceable, they'll ask it to be taken out, then it'll get heard by a planning committee, and then the decision will be made. That is ridiculous. So for those reasons, and for the fact that you've got concerns here over the schools, tennis school within our borough, okay, 20, 30 years ago, come back to move to Basildon. During the 12 months, the key workers, not included in this document, our veterans and military, current serving families as well, is outrageous, and I don't think this is enforceable. So I can't vote for this, I'm afraid. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Myers. Councillor Blake.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple of points. First of all, I think the name should be changed, not Basildon Charter, it should be Basildon Borough Charter, so it's more inclusive, would have been a start. I just think a lot of this time it's not enforceable, and that's the issue we've got planning in general, that it's just not enforceable. I've been here tonight and I've been accused, my name actually mentioned, of predetermination, so I just want to sort of clarify on a couple of points there. I do go into every planning application with an open mind. I'm not a chairman that actually doesn't know anything about the golden rules, but actually then decides that she's going to make a decision on planning. I'm not a chairman that actually believes that the consultation for the local plan has finished when is still going on when it's actually finished. And I'm not a chairman that openly says in planning that I can only go by what is in the agenda, that is written in the agenda, not listen to what the public is saying, not listen at all to what the public is saying. It's a waste of time them turning up. Talk about predetermination.
Can you draw your attention that we're talking about the first charter, not planning?
But I didn't hear Mo talk about that, so I think I'm only trying to defend myself. So I've got every right to defend myself. I've got that. So I think it's very important. The problem that I have is it's unenforceable. And I think we also know, even with the golden rules, but it's 50% affordable housing these days. When I challenge it at every planning committee and I turn around and say, how enforceable is this? Because we hear of other councils that have said we're going to put X amount of social housing in, and then they go back on it. We know that happens. We've seen it happen, and it's not enforceable, even on that score. So I do have worries and concerns about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Blake. That concludes the debate. No, that concludes the debate. I call upon Councillor Power to wind up for 5 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I won't take 5 minutes. This charter is about protecting our residents. My colleagues have, as always, enthusiastically outlined all the key points for this charter. This is about more than just homes. We're securing jobs, community benefit and a real future for our residents. My children, your children and grandchildren and family members. I am disappointed, but unfortunately not surprised, at an opportunity to come together and prove why we are elected to deliver for our residents resulted in the opposition tonight making this about who did what and when in planning and appeals. This is not what this charter is about. It's protecting our borough, thank you, and everyone that wants to continue to live here for further generations. Yes, this is a challenge, but one we are willing to take. But Councillor Schrader, I will happily answer your question. Kennel Lane, Dunton Road, Maitland Lodge, Orwell, Marsden, Eastgate and GSA have all agreed under the previous charter at present. Recently, we've also had London Road, Southend Road and Leydon Road signed. It's quite concerning that you all sit on planning and do not know this even sits within our Section 106 agreements. As you will know, these schemes have yet to be completed and marketed, but I will be happy to come back and report on the outcome of that at the right time. Councillor Myers, we are signatories of the Military Covenant, which means that all veterans are given priority for housing. And Councillor Blake, again, as rightly pointed out by the Mayor, unfortunately, apart from being able to not rise to a challenge, you chose to not actually debate this item. I think we need to remember why we all stand here as elected councillors, whether in administration or not. We should challenge, negotiate and work with those that wish to profit from our residents to ensure we give them the best possible outcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Now move to the vote. So the recommendation set out in item number 8. The vote is to continue. Please, all those voting in favour, please indicate. Are there any against? Councillor Headley. Keep your hands up if you're against, please. To get all together now. And abstentions, please. Please show your abstentions. Okay. Thank you. That vote is carried. I will now call a break for 15 minutes. Members, if you'd like to take your seats, please. Thank you. Okay, thank you. During the adjournment, we had a conversation about a vote that was taken earlier regarding silencing. I now hand over to the monitoring officer to discuss the implications of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, in the break, we looked more closely at the motion that was put forward to exclude the member from speaking during the rest of the meeting. Looking closely at the wording of 23B, it does say that a member not to be heard further if a member persistently disregards the ruling of the mayor by behaving improperly or offensively or just deliberately obstructs the business. So then that would start the motion off. As the member didn't disregard the ruling of the mayor, he should not have been stopped from speaking for the rest of the meeting. So that's the advice to the mayor.
Thank you very much. So, as such, presently, Councillor Baggett, you have leave to speak for the rest of the meeting because it wasn't done in the correct order. I'm minded to move on with the motions. Councillor McGarren.
Point of order. A clearly defamatory statement was made, and not for the first time. And not for the first time. And not for the first time. Our lawyers are watching.
Thank you. I think we're going to move on with the rest of the meeting. Item number 9, PPSO Annual Review Consultation, Feedback and Extension of Order. A call on Councillor McGeorge, Cabinet Member for Community Safety and Enforcement, to present this report for 10 minutes. She does not require a seconder.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. First off, I'd like to thank officers for all their work preparing the PSPO. Thank you. It hasn't been a quick process. This report seeks members' approval to extend the PSPO for an additional 3 years as the current PSPO expires on the 31st of March. Members are also asked to review the evidence and determine if the conditions for the proposed variations to the PSPO are met, including approving the variations in Enclosure 1 along with the schedules and maps for implementation. The proposed changes aim to help the Council and partners address antisocial behaviour by introducing new prohibitions and locations to curb detrimental behaviours. These include adding Basildon Town Centre to the existing motor vehicle prohibition, restricting amplifier use in Basildon Town Centre and introducing a borough-wide prohibition on antisocial bicycle use. The Council remains committed to maintaining safe town centres, parks and open spaces with the necessary powers to address persistent ASB. Now, to strengthen this, I'm delighted to share an exciting new initiative aimed at strengthening public protection and enhancing the safety of our communities. Our mission is clear: to make the best use of our existing resources and develop a dedicated, tailored public protection response team that will effectively task existing resources to tackle estate-based issues within our neighbourhoods. Branding plays a crucial role in this initiative. We want our organisation to be easily recognised by the community, ensuring that residents feel safe and reassured by our presence. That's why our officers will wear clearly branded uniforms and our vehicles will reflect our identity, making it clear who we are and the role we play in protecting our community. We will be recruiting a Town Centre Safer Communities Enforcement Officer. This is a new role that will be tailored to tackle town centre specific issues to reduce crime and the fear of crime. But we're not stopping there. This uniform will also be introduced across all visiting officers within our organisation. This consistency will build trust, reinforce our commitment to public safety and help residents easily identify those working to support and protect them to increase feelings of safety, reduce the fear of crime and crime itself. Collaboration is key to success, and while we're working closely with our colleagues at Essex Police to align our priorities and enhance our impact, our Chief Executive recently met with the newly appointed Chief Superintendent to strengthen this partnership and ensure we are united in our goal creating safer communities. We are committed to the enforcement of the PSPO and creating a safer community for all.
Thank you, Councillor McGeorge, and that matter is now open for debate. Do we have any indication for anyone who wants to debate? Councillor Baggett.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to thank officers for putting this together and the hard work they do. I know how hard the work that goes into this. And of course, the PSPOs were the things that we introduced as an administration, and Mr. Rimmer, I know, is still here, and should therefore thank him because he was one of the key drivers to getting the PSPOs put into place in the first place. Him and the late Councillor Mackenzie, the ex-mayor, who sadly, as you know, died. It is important that we have these PSPOs. It's important because it reinforces community confidence in their safety. It is also important, and I welcome Councillor McGeorge and what she said, that we have people on site to actually be able to impose fines and act accordingly when people actually are in breach of the PSPO. Because if you don't have the troops on the ground, you can't actually then carry through the intent of the PSPO. So broadly, it's welcomed, and I thank Councillor McGeorge for the work and effort that she's putting in.
Thank you, Councillor Baggott. Councillor Harrison.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Antisocial behaviour is one of the biggest issues facing this borough, whether it's knives, drugs or illegal motor vehicles. Throughout my 4 years on this council, I've heard numerous harrowing incidents from residents having machetes thrown over their fences into their back gardens, to nitrous oxide canisters and even needles strewn across children's playgrounds. And I've seen with my own eyes people walking through Basildon town centre brazenly brandishing knives in the middle of the day on a busy Saturday. This administration has made strides to address this, putting more PSPOs officers on the beat in areas of known antisocial behaviour, and ending the never-ending trial of e-scooters used by drug dealers and criminals to whiz around our estates, causing chaos. Indeed, 70% of the respondents to this consultation say that they've been negatively affected by the e-scooters and bikes, which is all the evidence that we need to continue the steps this council is taking, this council and our PSPOs are taking to tackle them. We all know there is much more to do, and passing this today won't solve every antisocial behaviour problem in the borough, but by extending the PSPOs by the maximum of 3 years, it gives us the maximum amount of time to build on the work the administration has already achieved and go further and faster in the coming years. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Harrison. Councillor Yacoub.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Residents of Basildon have made it clear that community safety is their top priority, and as one of the members for the St Martin's ward, I fully support the extension and strengthening of the PSPO. It's right that this item is being brought to full council for full endorsement tonight. Basildon Town Centre is being hit hardest. Antisocial behaviour linked to e-bikes and e-scooters, groups of cyclists causing chaos and blaring street amplifiers. These aren't just one-off incidents, they are persistent problems that make people feel unsafe and uncomfortable in our town centres. The stats speak for themselves. There's over 214 residents that reported issues with e-scooters and e-bikes. More than 190 people raised concerns about reckless cycling, groups intimidating residents and stressing people out while they're out and about in the town. There's noise from street amplifiers, which has been a long-term headache. And quite frankly, I'm surprised that amplifiers weren't already a part of the PSPO. As you know, this means that businesses feel that customers are driven away, families and parents can feel uncertain when they're going to certain areas, and that's unacceptable. So the proposed changes to the PSPO are necessary. Extending the ban on illegal motor vehicles, e-scooters and e-bikes makes total sense, and introducing a borough-wide ban on anti-social cycling is the right call, and cracking down on amplifiers will bring some peace back into our town centre. The PSPO gives the council the tools to tackle these problems head on, and crucially, it gives enforcement officers the power to take action when it's needed. I fully support this.
Thank you, Councillor Yacoub. Councillor Myers.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I do warmly welcome this. The Public Space Protection Order that was originally muted by my colleague, Mr. Rimmer, and the late Mayor Luke Mackenzie, was mainly to do with the issues at Pitsy Tesco with car cruising and issues like that, and yet we expanded it to include motorbikes and irrational motorbikes, motor vehicles, across parks across the borough, a drinking and drug violation across the whole borough to issue fines, and so far it has been fairly successful. Now, residents would say that, okay, they see some of the reports and not a lot of fines have been given, but with the community safety wardens, they felt that there was always a presence across the towns and in the parks during the day and in the evenings. So some amendments were made to change their operating hours so they work later in order to achieve some of the goals of the Public Space Protection Order. In fact, my maiden speech at this council in 2022 was to do with Netherland Park and the Public Space Protection Order to include that park into banning ponying traps and motorbikes, which got a very good reception in this chamber back then. I do welcome the changes to this about antisocial bicycle use and the amplifiers. This was brought to the Scrutiny Committee that I vice-chaired last year, I think it was in February, where the changes were mooted to be passed at the next council meeting. So it might have been actually late 2023, to be honest, when that was. I think that these issues have been ongoing for some time. There had to be evidence in order to add these new restrictions to the Public Space Protection Order and whether or not they could be enforced. Now, we can see here that this particular document is basically the one that was here before the election in May last year. Why it hasn't come sooner, I'm not sure. But a lot of the changes that were proposed, such as the amplifiers and the antisocial riding on bicycles. Thanks, Gab. Was to do with Wickford High Street, residents complaining about antisocial riding of bicycles, and was included in the Public Space Protection Order to then go out to consultation, which is then completed and for council to adopt. So it is good that it's finally here, and we should be supporting this. It is a borough-wide issue with antisocial behaviour, and we should all be aware of it as a cross-party issue. So the only particular issues I have are with how the enforcement is going to work going forwards. Now, with the scrapping of the community safety wardens themselves, who do patrols every single day, 7 days a week, in targeted hotspots and where they go, so for example in Pitsy, some of the estates in Pitsy, they regularly come along to Wickford High Street and to the parks over there, Cranfield Park and Netherland Park as well. I do have an issue with how this is actually now going to be further enforced now that has been cut. Now, Councillor McGeorge mentioned about a new, I can't remember the exact term she used, but a sort of a rapid response team to antisocial behaviour. Now, the issues with that, of course, is that once an incident's been reported and someone turns up, they're normally gone by then. So it is actually not the actual proactive use of patrolling areas that see considerable antisocial behaviour. I mean, I have an example this evening. We're currently doing our financials at the Wickford Community Association. We had a meeting last night, another meeting this evening before I came here. And there was a Range Rover which drove through an open gate, which is a car park for the Netherland Community Centre, then went to the playground across the field, and the guy got out of his Range Rover, got his kids out, put them over the fence to the playground, pushed him on the swings for a little bit, got back in the car, and went off. So, of course, took a picture of the licence plate, did a check, no insurance, no MOT. Typical. So that has been reported, Councillor McGeorge, that's been to the police already, so that's already been done. But it does go to show that there are issues across all 5 towns to do with antisocial behaviour and banning of motor vehicles, etc. The gate issue is something which I need to deal with one of Councillor Ferguson's officers due to an insurance claim, but I'll get that sorted. But in essence, the Public Space Protection Order is something that I can support, and I hope all members do. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Myers. Councillor Smith.
Thank you. Obviously, anybody in this chamber would support this. There isn't much politics in this, but what I would appeal to is asking the leadership of the police, not the police officers, that the open space in Kingswood, near my colleague Councillor Murphy, is regularly used by yobs on their little motorbikes. And as I said at the previous Cabinet meeting, you could re-film the scene that stars Steve McQueen, known, the film's name is The Great Escape, where he's trying to get over to Switzerland. But jokes aside, it's not fair on the residents having to listen to these glorified lawnmower engines with a noisy exhaust on the back, tearing around the parks when people are not, they could be some people who are elderly and not too good on their legs, trying to walk their dogs, and these idiots are tearing round. And unfortunately, as I say, it's not a criticism of the police, it is a decision by the leadership of the police not to chase after these people and seize their vehicles. And at the end of the day, they're mainly children on these bikes. No one would want to see them having an accident or getting hurt. So I would just make that appeal to the leadership of the police force in this county, that any illegally used vehicle, especially by a minor, is seized in the most safest manner possible, and that vehicle is crushed if it has no tax or insurance. That is the way forward. As we've always said at this council, it might slightly be irrelevant, but when it's your chance to speak, that's the time if you wish to correct something. Now, our former colleague, Councillor Mr. Rimmer, said something about lamp posts and using electric from lights. Just to clarify, for everyone's benefit, my colleague Councillor Murphy asked about where do we get the power from to power these Christmas lights that these various area committees are funded. So the officer said from the lamp post. So Councillor Murphy asked, and who pays? So I interrupted and went, shh. We're a net contributor to county, and if we can grab something from them, we'll do it every day of the week. Might not be entirely kosher, as some might put it, but when you're getting fleeced and there's a chance to grab a few pennies back, you do it. And I would do that every day of the week. And please, Mr. Rimmer, if you're listening there and you're writing your next Tory leaflet, Councillor Smith endorses grabbing money from Essex every single day of the week at every opportunity to make Basildon great again. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. Councillor Kevin Blake.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple of points here. I'd like to thank Melissa for one.
Under 2 you're talking about? Under 2 you're talking about?
Members, thank you. Thank you. I'll give you a little bit extra time. Continue, Councillor Blake.
Thank you, Mayor. I won't need all the time anyhow. I'd like to thank Melissa because last meeting I asked if she could let me know whether there was any events coming on that I could attend through my job, which she notified me within a couple of days, and I was happy to attend that. I wouldn't have been able to attend all day, but I certainly was there, so thank you for doing that. Just a couple of points. Councillor Yacoub said you banned illegal scooters. You never banned illegal scooters. I have got no idea where that's come from, unless you've done something that I certainly don't know about. You banned the trial scooters, the legal scooters, not the illegal scooters. Okay? I wish we could ban the illegal ones. I personally would keep the legal ones. I would ban the illegal ones straight away, because they're the ones that are causing the problem. Anyone that thinks that these scooters are, that you stopped or stop the contract do damage in Basildon Town Centre, you're absolutely wrong. They are not able to go into the town centre. Anybody knows about the contract they do, they got the GDR, they are stopped, they cannot go in there. So the ones that are going through the town centres are the illegal scooters. So I just want to clarify that. I had no problem with the legal ones, and again, we can't blame them for going into town centres because it is not them. It is the illegal ones. I just wanted to correct Councillor Yacoub. You did not ban the illegal scooters. Thank you.
Well done, Kevin.
Thank you, Councillor Blake. Okay, there are no further speakers on this item. You've already spoken, Councillor Yacoub. So, Councillor McGeorge, you may wind up for 5 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I will just run through a few of these. Councillor Baggott, thank you very much for your support on that. Councillor Harrison, yes, we have ended the e-scooter trial. The e-scooters did often find a way of getting through the town centre. I know they weren't meant to.
They did.
There were some rogue ones, unfortunately. Councillor Cube, you brought up the issues in the town centre. You're right, there are a few, which also gives me a little bit of an opportunity here. We've had the initial feedback from our Commission Town Centre Safety Plan. So we've got some positive changes that we can implement, including physical interventions and activations. So they will be coming forward and you'll know what we've got going up to in that. Councillor Myers, the car cruises. I'm almost upset that Councillor Rimmer is sat over there and he can't bring up my love of legal car cruises. I'm sure he's gutted. We know now that that's not happening anywhere near as much. The police do have the means to stop those now. Now, the reason it's taken so long to get here, as you said, Councillor Myers, is that we needed the evidence to make sure that it was there. We then needed to make sure the document was legally compliant before we could bring it anywhere and take it back to court. So that's why it's probably taken a bit longer than a few of you might have liked. Councillor Smith, the bikes in Kingswood, just keep reporting them. When the police, I know, but just keep on it. I can bring it up in I have a fortnightly meeting with the police. It can be brought up there. Everyone keep at it. It's fine. Councillor Blake, thank you very much. As I said, the e-scooters were rogue little things. I can also say the police have committed to joint patrols with us and days of action to improve community safety. We can target areas where we know that there are specific issues, so we can make sure that they're getting hit there. The 5 priorities roadshows are going around in all 14 wards with resident and member engagement with communities and businesses. They will be starting in April and information will be going out to all members soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now move to the vote. Item number 9. All those in favour, please indicate. All those against? Any abstentions? Councillor Headley, have you voted? You're not voting on this item? No. Okay. Thank you. No, it was recorded as a non-vote. Thank you. Well, moving on to item number 10, the refresh of the Council's corporate plan. I call upon the Leader of the Council to present the report up to 10 minutes and does not require a seconder. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Tonight I present to Council the final corporate plan for the Basildon Borough Council, the last corporate plan. Not sure TikTok's listening over there, but he needs to. The last corporate plan that this council will ever pass. The plan is a blueprint for change, a roadmap to a stronger, more resilient Basildon and preparation for the once-in-a-century transformation that local government reorganisation will bring. The formation of this plan was different from any of that came before it. We did not sit in a room and draft policies in isolation. Instead, we went out and listened to residents, to businesses and to community leaders. We ran focus groups, surveys and one-on-one conversations to understand what people really want from their council, and most importantly, we acted on what we heard. For the first time, we have built a corporate plan that reflects the values, concerns and ambitions of the people of all 5 towns of our borough. The resident engagement consultation was hugely informative and successful, and I would like to thank the team at QA Research for their help in pulling this together. Over 700 residents took part through surveys, focus groups and interviews. Our residents have never been shy in telling us their views, and we heard from them loud and clear on this. People want their local identity recognised. For too long, our borough has been seen just as Basildon Town. This plan embraces the uniqueness of Wickford, Billericay, Langdon, Pitsy and our villages. Crime and safety is the top concern in every town. That is why we are responding by ending programmes that don't work and reinvesting the money into enforcement and a full public protection team. Cleanliness and pride in our towns matter. Residents told us they want to see better maintained streets, public spaces and green areas. This plan lays the foundations for us to fix the bins. Housing and affordability are critical. We're committed to delivering high quality, affordable homes and, unlike the party opposite, ensure that they go to the people of Basildon first. This plan This plan is not just about services, it's about creating a borough where people feel proud to live, work and raise their families. We have all heard on the doorsteps in recent years, people don't like living in our borough anymore. That's because they've been let down by a council that did not get the basics right and ruined the foundations of local government. We're slowly starting to fix that through the reforms here, and LGR will help us to do that. It is why our corporate plan is structured around 4 key ambitions: people, places, promise and public service. Mr. Mayor, point 4 of our corporate plan is critical for us as councillors and also for our staff. I have always believed that public service matters. Coming to work every day to work on behalf of the greater good should always be about far more than a paycheck. The days of this council being treated like a gravy train for the mediocre is over. Indeed, this is the last corporate plan that Basildon Council will ever pass. By the end of this decade, our entire system of local government will be transformed. LGR is coming, as we know, and we are moving ahead to a new unitary model, and Basildon must be ready to lead. That is why this plan is different. It does not just focus on the next year or two, it is designed to prepare our borough for the future, ensuring that services remain strong, investment continues and our voice is heard in the reorganisation process. We will not wait for change to be forced upon us, as I have said previously. We will shape the future of Basildon on our terms. We will take this plan and ensure that it reflects our residents' voices, our ambitions for the future and the changes that are coming to local government. This is about Basildon getting ready for growth, for investment and for a new model of governance. And I hope that members will give this plan their full support.
Thank you. Thank you, Leader. The matter is now open for debate. Do I have any speakers? Please indicate. Okay. There are no speakers. Therefore, you may wind up, Councillor Callaghan. No, no winding up. We'll go straight to the vote. All those in favour, please indicate. Okay, all those against? Thank you, Councillor Headley. Any abstentions? Okay, that vote is carried. Thank you. Moving on to item 11, the annual report of the overview and scrutiny function. I call upon Councillor Barnes, the Vice Chairman of the Overview and Scrutiny Commission, to present the report. You have up to 10 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I certainly won't take anywhere near 10 minutes. This speech, as originally written, started with the words, I want to broadly support the words that Councillor Harrison has said, but unfortunately Councillor Harrison isn't here, so we'll need a swift rewrite. I would like to wish him well. I know he's not well. I'm sure everyone in the chamber will join me in that. I hope to see him back soon. I do think that the Scrutiny Commission has done some good work this year, and I've enjoyed much of what we have done. I'd like to thank Councillor Westwick for his task and finish group. It's a shame he leaked the results, but before it was complete, but thanks nevertheless. I'd also like to take the opportunity, in a rare moment of collegiate praise for the administration, to thank Cabinet members for attending the Overview and Scrutiny Committee. I actually think it's quite useful. I think it helps the process because you can get answers from the Cabinet member direct straight away. May not like the answers, but you do at least get them. And I think it helps the administration as well because it's far easier for Cabinet members to get a flavour of the feedback if they're in the room. So I do thank those who have attended, and I appreciate them taking the time to do so. I do have some comments on some of the other scrutiny committees. Even this report, let's be honest, struggles to indicate what value, if any, some of them have added. I don't know if it's a problem with the mandates they were given. I don't know if it's an issue with the number of meetings that these committees have had, but it's clear that they don't represent value for money, and I don't believe some of them have been a good use of councillor or officer time. I would ask that the administration reflect upon that and perhaps consider the structure for next year, because whilst there is a case for scrutiny subcommittees, I think they need to have clear roles, be strongly chaired and properly structured. But look, overall, insofar as scrutiny can be effective, and that at the end of the day is a separate debate, I think there's been a good year for scrutiny. I think the administration has engaged with it reasonably well, and I think the committee engaged with it pretty well also. We still have a meeting in April with a massive agenda, so there's still plenty of time for it all to go horribly wrong. But so far, it's been a good commission, and I'd like to thank officers and members for their support. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Barnes. The matter is now open for debate. Do I have any speakers? Please indicate. Okay, Councillor Barnes, do you wish to wind up? Thank you. No, this is to be received, therefore no vote is needed. This is for noting. Thank you. Item number 12, Area Committee Annual Review. I have asked for all the area committee chairs to present a short section on how their area committees have been proceeding. So, would Councillor Ansell like to go first? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It is with pleasure that I rise this evening to report the activity of the Basildon Area Committee. Firstly, I'd like to put on record my thanks to the administration for their vision to establish the area committees. The area committees give residents and elected members more power to invest in their community. But this power comes with responsibility. As a former Prime Minister once said, there's no such thing as public money, there is only taxpayers' money. Mr. Mayor, the Basildon Area Committee has allocated its funding wisely. I'm pleased to report that we have taken the opportunity to empower community groups that perform important roles in various areas of our society. In doing so, we have strengthened the social fabric of Friends and St Martin's. For example, the committee has awarded funding to La Danse Fantastique. This is an amazing local dance group that supports young children and adults from all backgrounds and regardless of their needs. Thanks to the funding provided by Basildon Council, this group is now working with the NHS to undertake trailblazing new therapy sessions with residents in our borough that suffer from Parkinson's. I'm also proud to say that this committee has awarded funding to support Bar and Bus, which provides invaluable outreach work and pastoral care to help vulnerable pupils at local schools in the area. The group also supports the aspirations of young people to pursue noble careers in youth work and earn qualifications. Similarly, Gateway FM has secured funding through the committee to allow it to provide media training for young people. I've seen firsthand how Gateway FM creates opportunities for vulnerable children and children with disabilities to learn new skills and earn media qualifications that act as a springboard into a career in journalism. I'm also a big believer in the benefits of sport, from supporting good mental health to teaching life skills. Thanks to the Basildon Area Committee, Basildon and Pitsy Cricket Club can now upgrade its facilities and in the process secure its long-term future. Sports clubs are the pillars of our community, and the funding from this council will allow the club to offer greater opportunities for boys and girls to get involved in a great British sport. I cannot also finish my speech without mentioning the crunch. After the previous administration made a mess of the refuge changes, we have used the area committee funding to restore Basildon Council's hugely popular mobile tip. Mr. Mayor, the area committee was a new concept for this council at the start of the municipal year, and as members have heard tonight, we are forging that concept into success for the people of our borough. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ansell. Councillor Smith.
Oh, thank you. I thought it was all going to be done in alphabetical order. So I'm the area committee chairman for the Wesley Heights one, which covers the wards of Langdon Hills and Nevermain. We've pretty much spent all of our funding. I think that's good habit from being a county councillor. When there's money available, grab it, make a decision and spend it before it gets reallocated. So that's how we've worked. But what we've done, very briefly, is on page 169 and 173 of the agenda. We've obviously funded 2 lots of crunches, which have been very popular and well accepted. As we spoke before, the issue of Pitsy tip, where you have to be a mind reader and book some time in advance. And unfortunately, people are doing the wrong thing of fly tipping. There's no defence for it. But with these crunches, if people need to get rid of something, it's convenient and it helps to fight fly tipping. We've supported the Carol in the Park. Regrettably, the Lady Basildon Path, and we don't name paths after living people. It's who was that Irish writer who got banged up from the Victorian times? Oscar Wilde, yeah, it was a character from one of his books. We're quite... well, Councillor Brown, we have a few wards in Wesley Heights named after writers, Shakespeare Avenue, Byron's Path, and let's show credit to, what was his name again, Walter? Oscar Wilde, by having the name of one of his characters. The works will be taking place in June. Unfortunately, one of the landowners of the car park there wouldn't allow us to undertake the works during the wettest times of months, which would have meant up to 7 parking spaces being taken. So our crews will be commencing work in June, which I think will be better weather. And the whole ethos of this path is that Clay Hill Lane has no footpath whatsoever. There's a very popular golf course and a very well-used nursery and local sports and gym equipment there. And we'd want to keep people safe in all weather. So when this path is finally done in June, July, for next winter, it will keep residents walking along safe, which is what we want to support. We have funded salt bins. And the reason being is to give the taxpayer far better value for money. If I approach Essex County Council, it can cost between £6,500 to £4,500 for a salt bin, and when queried, design costs, which everyone seems to raise their eyebrow in political unison. So it is far cheaper for the area committees to fund them. We also supported the Langdon Hills Winter Relief, and to be clear on that issue, the estate in Langdon Hills, which has a district heating system, missed out because of when they was doing grants to help people through the first winter when energy bills really rocketed because of Putin's illegal actions in Ukraine. If you're on a district heating system, you'd have missed out and they got hurt. So working with Gillian Blake and my colleagues for Langdon Hills, Councillor Moore Brown, Councillor Val Robbins and Councillor Green, the area committee awarded £5,000, and the Residents Association now are reaching out to the hardest hit people. We've given them support, and they've had various grants in the past via county. As I said, we'll grab any money from county. We're not shameful about that. We'll grab it because we've paid for it, and they've got experience of distributing. More recently, we've had the Friends of Langdon Hills Open Space approach us for money for what they call conversation benches, and I hope they don't foul of Councillor McGeorge's PSPO orders. With amplified noises, I believe it's just for residents to speak and they don't make any noises, these conversation benches. I'd like to thank the Friends of the Langdon Hills Ridge. They're going to be going out there in all sorts of weather, cutting up vegetation to install new hedgerows, improve the hedgerows, and as it's right on the edge of our town pretty much, it's improving the air quality, and I commend them, and that's why we're supporting them. And the final one was the Crooked Brook Estate. It's on the edge of Nethermain. They have a fobbing address. They're Basildon taxpayers, and they're in this limbo where our vehicles drive up and down to collect their refuse, and of course it's doing damage to their highway infrastructure, which they own. So this is a one-off gesture. They're putting up half the money. We're putting up the other half. So that way it's good for them, and our highway crews, refuse crews, will not be tripping over on any damaged bits of pavement, when collecting the bins. So I'd like to wrap up there and thank members for their indulgence and the Mayor's help. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. Councillor Alex Harrison.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to start by thanking Michelle and David from the communities team for their excellent work this year. They've done an incredible job working with local charities, community groups and residents to identify potential funding streams, keep local groups updated and make Langdon and Lee Chapel North the best place possible to live, work and play. Throughout this year, I've had the pleasure of meeting with local groups and charities, seeing the fantastic work they do firsthand and discussing how we can support them to grow and promote their hard work. We've had some brilliant initiatives coming to the committee this year, and I'm proud we supported spending proposals to help some of the most vulnerable residents in the area, from funding an education robot to support children suffering from cancer to young people benefiting from the fantastic bar and bus service, and a men's shed initiative by Achieve, Thrive, Flourish to give men a place to go, chat, learn new skills and improve their mental health. And of course, this administration brought back the crunch this summer, and every area committee has voted every time to continue it. In Langdon and Lee Chapel North, we've had a fantastic turnout at all 6 crunches so far, and I'm looking forward to the next one on the 29th of March. The residents love it. It reduces flyer tipping, and it's a service and it's a free service that saves residents time and money they'd otherwise be spending using the tip or the council's bulky items collection service. This year we've passed funding considerations for the Crunch, Carols in the Park, Heritage Mix, Bar and Bus, Lennox Children's Cancer Fund and Achieve, Thrive, Flourish. And this is just the beginning. Next year I'm excited to get out and about supporting more community groups and charities and encouraging them to submit funding requests so that we can continue to support the most vulnerable in Langdon and Lee Chapel North and deliver for all residents. This will be seen most keenly through the increased involvement the area committees will have in running the Pride Team service. Flag tipping is one of the biggest issues on the estates of Langdon and Lee Chapel North, and between the Pride Teams and the Crunch, the area committee will be making a huge difference. For estates like Five Links and King Edwards, I know where the flag tipping is before I even step foot on the estate. Indeed, I often play a game of what will there be this week? A sofa, a mattress, maybe a desk, and of course, no end of trolleys. So, Mr. Mayor, from high-tech robots to a good old-fashioned men's shed, we've seen it all this year, and I can't wait to see what next year will bring.
Thank you, Councillor Harrison. I now call Councillor Alan Ball. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Wickford Area Committee, it's a massive area. It stretches from Notebridge to Shopgate. It's the only area committee with cross-party representation, which makes things interesting. We've had 2 rounds and we've got a 3rd round to come. In the first round, we obviously participated in the Crunch service. We put a new War Memorial bench in Ramsden Craze next to the War Memorial, which we enhanced in the second one to make it a Queen Elizabeth II bench. My Otis, My Own Time and Space, is a local charity that we give money to. Friends of Wick Country Park, a wildflower meadow which has just started to be seeded this month. Wickford Community Association, funding for a new bowls mat and fencing jackets, Councillor Myers. Wickford Senior Citizens Christmas Lunches, we funded 4 constituted older people's clubs for Christmas lunches. In the second round, we've funded another Crunch service, a bench outside Eve Bell Care Home, which was there before when it was Chaplain Lodge, so we've replaced that. Queen Elizabeth Memorial Bench we've added to the bench in round 1. The Friends of Memorial Park, we've funded a Stumpery Bog Garden and Handish Chase duck platform in Notebridge. We've got one more round to go, and the prospective recipients will be Wickford Town Football Club, the Wickford Pavilion Defibrillator, Wick Community Centre with a new kitchen, lighting in the Leverden Park between Keatsway and the community centre. We'll start to do that. Coppice Lane pond fencing to keep the ducks in, and we've got Friends of Notebridge have got £2,000. We was the first committee to have a spotlight section, and obviously pleased to say that others have followed since. We've had a spotlight section so far. We've had My Otis, Wickford Town Football Club, and on the 3rd one we've got Friends of Wickford Memorial Park. We also have invited updates on the last one for the Wickford train station, which doesn't exist at the moment, and we're going to have a debate on the car parking charges. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ball. Councillor Baggott, thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. This is the Billericay Area Committee report. I know that there are some folk that think that Billericay is some sort of affluent utopia. but that doesn't actually mean that we don't have people that have mental health problems, that there aren't people there that actually can suffer unemployment, that there aren't childcare problems, and that people there don't have the same sort of issues that people across the borough have. As well as that, we also do have certain areas which are deprived as well. So I know it's not a competition, but I'm really pleased that our area committee is the one that's spent the most money so far this year. I want to thank Jenny Squibb and David Toombs for the hard work that they've put in reaching out to the community. And one of the very first things that we did do was that we reached out and invited as many community groups as we could to actually come and understand what the area committees were about, understand what the criteria were, and actually have discussions and also network for them so they could actually talk to each other about projects they might want to do. We've been working very hard with officers to actually strengthen the criteria and the process for the expressions of interest, because that was a little bit cobbled together, a little bit weak, and by actually strengthening it, it means that they can actually put in a better case for the future. We are going to continue to engage with the community and work hard with the community and do what the area committees are supposed to be about, which is members engaging with the community they represent in order to actually better that community. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Baggott. And finally, Councillor Pat Reid. Thank you.
Thank you. The best is last. Pitsy Area Committee, round one of funding allocations were the delivery of the crunch, which, as everybody else has said, was extremely popular with the residents. Carols in Northlands Park, including the lit Christmas tree, gazebo and PA package. Also, we have planted a Christmas tree in Northlands Park, so that hopefully this Christmas and future Christmases we can use our sustainable Christmas tree. And we also get funding to the Pitsy School Uniform Bank, and this was for rental of a storage unit for school uniform donations. Round two funding allocations, which our meeting was last night, and we funded delivery for a second crunch to be held on the 29th of March. We've also funded 8 animal waste bins to be located at the 8 parks across the 2 Pitsy wards. We're hoping that these will encourage children to put their waste into the animal waste bins and hopefully teach their parents to do the same thing. We've also funded 8 dog waste bins in the same parks, and we've, instead of having the plastic ones, we've asked for the larger metal bins because the plastic ones seem to get vandalised a lot. We've also allocated funding for the locomotive shed at Wattyler Park for the miniature railway, which we're hoping is going to be open April this year. Funded a new fire alarm system in the Pitsy Man Community Association, funding for the ATF Park Play to be held at Northlands Park, funding for junior backside to trackside, which is going to be 30 pupils from Northlands School, which is one of the most deprived areas in Pitsy, to do junior backside to trackside, encouraging some of these children to become part of the activities, and hopefully going forward they will keep that up after the 6-week training. And also funding for Northlands Park to help them get some fleeces and things to show recognition in the park for the work that they're doing, and also when they attend events, so that it's advertising for them. Already from round one, I followed up with the Pitsy School Uniform Bank and visited their storage facility. They are now able to take more donations and help more families from the wider range of schools. They only open on a Monday morning, but since the 13th of January 2025, they have already been able to help 70 families with school uniforms, equating to over 800 items of uniform supplied. The families accessing the service have children attending schools primarily from Pitsy North West and Pitsy South East, but also include schools from the wider borough. In conclusion, I would like to thank all the Pitsy councillors for their support and dedication. Together, we are a strong team that cares about our residents. I would also like to express my thanks to the officers who have provided invaluable advice and assistance, especially Colin, Holly and David Toombs. I hope that we can continue working closely with residents and community groups to create positive change and strengthen our communities. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Reid. All very positive feedback. This is to be received and no vote is needed. So we move on to item number 13, the change of date of the annual meeting of the council. I call upon Councillor Callaghan, leader of the council, to present, have up to 10 minutes and no seconder is required.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Following the decision of the Secretary of State to accept the Conservative County Council's request to postpone the 2025 elections in Basildon, I am requesting that Council change the date of the AGM from the 15th of May to the 1st of May. This decision reflects the pace, ambition and urgency with which this administration is working to deliver on our commitments to the people of Basildon. I have spoken before about my frustration over the lack of time that this council spends sitting in committees, council meetings and cabinets. We must increase the amount of business this council is doing, especially as we prepare for the seismic changes that are coming. This change allows us to get to work faster, make decisions sooner and ensure that Basildon is ahead of the curve as we prepare for LGR. We are facing an unprecedented period of change and I don't believe we should waste any time. As I have said on multiple occasions tonight, LGR is coming and Basildon must lead from the front in shaping how services will be delivered under a new unitary model. We only have until the 26th of September to get our final plan into government. We have a new corporate plan tonight that is ambitious about setting out clear priorities for people, places, prosperity and a fit-for-purpose council. And we have the Basildon First Charter that the opposition are not in support of, that commits us to delivering for our residents first, ensuring that new homes, local services and economic opportunities are focused on the people who live in Basildon. Bringing the AGM forward by 2 weeks allows us to confirm our meeting schedule for the 25-26 municipal year sooner, set the strategic agenda for the 25-26 year without delay, and maximise the time available to deliver for residents in what will be a critical year for Basildon. Unlike in previous years, there are no elections in May 2025, which means we have a rare opportunity to get started early. Instead of waiting until mid-May, we will be ready to move from the 1st of May, an extra 2 weeks to drive our agenda forward and ensure Basildon continues to be at the forefront of LGR leadership. Bringing forward the AGM ensures that we are staying ahead, that we maintain momentum in those discussions and we continue to lead the way. So Mr. Mayor, I hope that colleagues will support this change and show our residents that we are continuing to work hard on their behalf. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Callaghan. The matter is now open for debate. Do we have any speakers? No indication. And do you wish to wind up? No, then we move to the vote. Vote item number 13, change the date of the annual meeting of the council. All those in favour, please indicate. Are there any against? Any abstentions? No, they've all voted. They've all voted in favour. Thank you. That vote is carried. Moving on to item number 14, notices of motion. There are two notices of motion. First one to be moved by Councillor Jeffrey. Would you please like to stand and read out your motion? And do you have a seconder? Okay, and that's Councillor Myers. Councillor Jeffrey, you have up to 10 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Now, imagine a high street with fewer customers, charity shops struggling to raise money for their worthwhile causes because volunteers can't afford to park, or indeed local restaurants struggling to stay afloat. That's exactly what these charges will lead to. This motion has one clear purpose: to stop this administration's ill-conceived plan before it damages our towns. The reintroduction of weekend and evening parking charges is nothing more than a stealth tax on our high streets, punishing businesses at a time when they need all the support they can get. Have we forgotten that businesses need customers to survive, that they already contribute through business rates which help fund our core services? If we drive people away from our high streets, we do lasting damage not just to shops, but to the economic fabric of our towns. That's why the logic behind this decision is baffling. It is nothing more than a sledgehammer to crack a walnut. A wildly disproportionate move if the goal is to tackle commuter parking. Instead of precision, the administration has chosen blunt force, and it will be local businesses and residents who pay the price. An alternative that has been suggested by the petition with over 1,900 signatures just from Wickford is to implement 3 hours free parking to stop commuters while still protecting our high street businesses. Let's be clear, these changes will drive people away, hurt our town centres and stifle their fragile recovery, especially from the damage being inflicted by the Labour government through their jobs tax, which increases costs for employers. And with the additional charge in the evenings, what will this do for businesses such as restaurants? Adding extra cost to a time at the very time people are most likely to visit is not just misguided, it's reckless. No matter how much they try to dress it up or tweak it at the last minute, a charge is still a charge. Whether it's full or partial, it still punishes businesses and deters shoppers. This is not about reasonable budgeting, this is history repeating itself. Labour and their independent allies have done this before in 2018, and they are doing it again. They want to make it harder for shoppers, harder for visitors to support Wickford's fledgling market, and even harder for families who want to use our gym, swimming pool and parks like Lake Meadows. This administration claims these charges will raise revenue. They won't raise as much as we are led to believe, and now under pressure they're trying to find a middle ground that still keeps the charges in place. But let's be honest, residents not just from Wickford and Billericay but across the borough didn't sign a petition asking for fewer charges. They asked for free car parking on weekends and evenings, obviously with the caveat of the suggestion they had earlier. We have the opportunity to stop this from happening. My motion calls for this damaging decision to be stopped. A watered down version won't save our high streets. Only a full reversal will. This is what this motion demands, and this is what residents expect from us to deliver. I urge all councillors to back this motion and reject these harmful car parking charges. No half measures, no compromises. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Jeffrey. Councillor Myers.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Where do I start? Thank you, Councillor Jeffrey, for a very, very detailed discussion of how this will damage our high streets in Wickford and in Billericay. It's not just the high streets here that we have a particular issue with. It is also with some of the areas where charges are going to be introduced into Lake Meadows and also into Wat Tyler as well. So why... sorry, can I continue, Mr. Mayor? Thank you. So my question is this. The machines themselves are going to become cashless and ticketless. How is this going to be monitored? Allowing a 2 hour, 3 hour free car parking system in Wickford and Billericay high street car parks to deter those who do park in our town centre car parks to travel into the city. It does happen, I would agree. Would then force with licence plate recognition software for those who do overstay the £2-3 are issued a fine, rather than charges on weekend and evenings where people do go to a town to shop, not necessarily for longer than 2 hours. Why aren't these other options not being considered, other than just being a cash grab for £170,000? which in the minutia of council's funding and budget is minuscule, compared to the damage that will be done to the high street's businesses, shops, hospitality in the areas, and will drive people away to the retail parks across our borough and leave our high streets struggling more than they have been since the financial crisis. So I do support Councillor Jeffrey's motion this evening, and I do urge all councillors to support this evening. And I'll leave it there. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Myers. Councillor McGarren.
Right, time for an injection of reality. As I would have explained earlier if I answered the question from the member of the public who sadly wasn't here, but I will be getting back to her obviously. We've got a massive budget gap to fill. We've got a 3.1 million budget gap, and as usual tonight you want to create a bigger budget gap. You're not telling us how we go about filling that. And let's be clear why we've got that budget gap and why we've got to do this. Is the Conservative administration completely messed up the waste collection system, not only introducing a system that didn't work, but also didn't deliver the saving it was supposed to, and ended up costing money. Well done with that one. Similarly, the Conservatives were unable or unwilling to tackle the temporary accommodation crisis and stood back and simply watched as the costs spiralled. That's why we are where we are. But it's not just that. There are other reasons as well, and that I think Councillor Myers referred to some of them. Some of our car parks are being abused. We know that. The Wickford members certainly know that, and he actually referred to it. And people are coming at times from outside the borough to park at the weekend and go into London for footy matches, theatre, whatever. They are not spending anything in Wickford businesses, and that is simply not right. I actually take issue with the rationale that the nighttime parking charges will hit restaurants, cafes and pubs. You've certainly not provided any evidence to back that up with. And let's be honest. Let's actually analyse the situation here, because no one wants to pay for something they haven't paid for before. I get that. Right? I don't want to be introducing that, but I'm not apologising for it because it's necessary. So families are parking on our car parks in Billericay, going out for a meal, spending more than £100 comfortably often, but you're really saying the fact they have to pay £2 for parking is going to stop them doing that? You're really saying that? Because that just doesn't ring true to me. Councillor Phil Turner's been very quiet tonight, although he did do one quite good quip. I did appreciate that one, Phil. Well done. He's fond of going on about the £1 million houses in Billericay, particularly belonging to certain individuals. He's right. There is a lot of houses that are worth above £1 million. The actual average house price in Billericay is £522,738. The average for a detached house is £779,877. But Conservative councillors seem to think it is right and proper for residents that can't afford to get on the housing ladder in Pitsy, Basildon and Leindon, they should have to pay for their free parking. I don't think that's right, and I'm going to call it out. It's not right. I'm saying it here and now. That is not right. I firmly believe the charges that have been set, we're proposing to set, are reasonable. They're a reasonable rate, especially when you consider the cost of reference to Lake Meadows, the cost of the countryside and other spaces run by other local authorities, and especially Essex County Council, who have been charging for years almost 3 times what we propose to charge for an hour at Lake Meadows. You're not getting the pitchforks out and you get your smocks on for that one, are you? I don't wonder why. You know, be consistent. If this is wrong, call that out for being wrong as well. I attended the Overview and Scrutiny Commission this week, and it'd be wrong not to say my best wishes to Councillor David Harrison. Hope he gets better really soon. We know he wasn't well on Monday, but you wouldn't have known it. It was a Trojan performance. He did brilliantly. And he also came up with some really positive, constructive proposals, suggestions, which in my role as Cabinet member, I'm going to go have a look at and see what we can do. But as usual from the Conservatives, all we're getting is don't do it, don't do anything, stop it. we don't like it. People in Billericay are a bit upset. Well, you know what? It's not about upsetting people in Billericay. It's about fairness and justice and about plugging the gap in the budget. This is a proposal, by the way. Now, I'll be honest with you. Are we going to reverse the idea on charging at all? No, but some of the things that the social media campaign and the petition have raised, we will be looking at. We were looking at them already. It's not like you've told us anything we didn't know, and we'll look at them and we'll come back with a fully worked out strategy, and I'll be happy to explain it to you then. And you might not be as horrified as you are now, but I suspect some of you will feign horror whatever we do.
Thank you to Councillor McGarren. Councillor Callaghan.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. With your permission, I'd like to move an amendment to the motion, and this is very simple. I will keep the first paragraph, and the amendment on the second paragraph will read that this council resolves to ask the Wickford and Billericay area committees to consider revoking parking charges on weekdays and evenings in Billericay and Wickford. And I'll speak to that amendment now. As Councillor McGarren has said, why are we doing this? We have a £3 million overspend, £2.3 million of which has been because of the disastrous waste service that was introduced. Just this week I was in Wickford at my latest town hall meeting, and I was explaining to people that in Wickford we have seen a 52% increase in the number of missed collections since this disastrous scheme was introduced, and a 76% increase in incidents of fly tipping, and that is just in the Wickford wards. So we've seen a phenomenally bad performance on that, and it is costing more money. They flippantly tonight, they learn no lessons, because they flippantly tonight come along and say, well, it's just £170,000, so let's not worry about it. That £170,000 that they're proposing, where do you want us to get that from? Would you like us to put another 1.5% on the council tax? Is that your proposal, to put another 1.5% on the council tax? Are you going to cut the grounds maintenance service? Are we going to go down to 5 or 6 cuts as a result of your proposal? Are you going to take money away from the area committees? We've just heard how brilliant they were. They've changed their mind on that again. But we've just heard how brilliant the area committees are. Are you going to cut the pride teams? There are no answers from the Conservatives about how you're actually going to find the money. It's all just smoke and mirrors. And when you look at the best town centres in Essex at this moment in time, they all charge. So there isn't a correlation between footfall and charging. I'm not, by the way, going to take any lectures on how to keep a high street successful from a party that destroyed every high street and managed to decline town centres. One of the other things that people talk to me about as this has come up is the appalling state of the car parks that the council own. I mean, unless you drive a KA, you are going to be struggling to fit into any of the car parking spaces. They cost money. You have to repaint them. You have to pay for the electricity. You have to pay and maintain the machines. When you don't charge and you don't have any money to do that, you end up in the situation we're in, where our car parks are in an appalling state. And I would also say, as part of this, Councillor McGarren issued this decision notice before Christmas. Not a single Conservative councillor called the decision in. They were that outraged at the decision that there was not a single one of them that called the decision in. We came to this chamber on the 13th of February. They had spent, the shadow cabinet member for finance, God love him, he still never asked me a question, but he apparently had spent months in discussions with the chief finance officer about preparing an alternative budget. The alternative budget they put forward did not include reversing the car parking charges. So their own budget would have still gone ahead with the charges in it. They had no intention of taking them out. They talk about the area committees and all of the wonderful things that they're doing. I just want to put this on record, Mr Mayor. In the budget, we have allocated £90,000 in the 25-26 financial year to the Billericay Area Committee. In the Wickford Area Committee, they have been allocated £90,000. I have also agreed that all of the area committees can carry forward their underspends from this year. So it means that in both the Wickford and in the Billericay area committees, they each have £102,000 each to spend in the next municipal year. The Town Council of Billericay currently has almost £600,000 of unspent money in its reserves. The Wickford Town Council has almost £300,000 of unspent money. It is currently spending 52% of its annual budget on staffing and office costs, right? Which that definitely needs to be looked at. But across Billericay and Wickford, taxpayers have paid either through Basildon Council taxes or through the precept levied on them in the Town Council. There is an additional £1.1 million of taxpayer money that is there that can be used to fund free car parking in Billericay and Wickford. The argument that these guys are making tonight is that we should somehow give them more. And we should give them more from Basildon, Pitsy and Leyden. I don't think that's fair. And I haven't thought it's fair. It's why I introduced the area committees, to give each councillor and each town the money to make these decisions about what's important to them. Councillor Baggott said tonight, I will conclude, Mr. Mayor, but Councillor Baggott said in his contribution tonight that they went out in the area committee and they listened and they engaged and they wanted to come up with schemes and things that people are telling them is important to them. Well, if over 1,000 people have signed a petition saying to you, provide free car parking in Billericay, you guys have the money to do it. And I have written to the Town Council, who also have the money to do it. I have committed that every year that I am the leader of this council, I will keep the area committees and I will fund them. So as long as I'm here, the area committees will be here and there will be funding for that as well. So, Mr. Mayor, I just say in conclusion to this amendment tonight, I agree that it's clearly a priority. You've only got to spend 5 minutes on my Facebook page to see that, right? It is a priority for the public. They want the 2 or 3 hours. They don't want the whole time to be free. They want 2 or 3 hours of free car parking. Fine. This council and the Town Council has made the money available for that to be delivered. The only question now is, are Wickford and Billericay councillors going to get on with it and deliver it?
Councillor Callaghan, do you have a seconder to your amendment? No. Councillor McGarren. You wish to speak to the amendment? Yeah. Thank you.
Sorry, yeah. Right. I think the amendment is very sensible. I think it speaks to some of the legitimate concerns that have been raised, and certainly some of the concerns that Councillor David Harrison raised on Tuesday night. So I'm delighted to be seconding it. And this is exactly what area committees are there for. This is exactly what they're there for. Yep. Because you, as members of your area committee, your job is to tell us what matters to you, what you want to fund from the money that's available to you. Yeah? So why wouldn't you support this? I've no idea. So if it really, really matters to you, if providing 2 or 4 hours of free parking at the weekends is particularly important, then put your hands in your pockets, in your area committee's pockets, and fund it. The money's there, it's not a problem. And as Councillor Callaghan said, the town councils have got the money. They've been very vocal on this. Again, if it matters so much, if they are right, that it needs looking at, that they need 2 to 4 hours free parking at the weekends, they can fund it as well. We're not talking, we're doing the work on the figures, but we're not talking a substantial amount of money. It would hardly dent the budget of the area committee, and it certainly would hardly dent the budget of the town councils. So, like, one of the things that I have listened to and been sympathetic to is things like the park runs at Lake Meadows. We don't want to discourage people from taking part in park runs. We don't want to discourage healthy lifestyles, etc., etc. Again, if the area committees and the town councils can fund this, it's not an issue. Because if you provide 4 hours of free parking, that more than covers the amount of time. Even I would probably get around in about 4 hours, I reckon. Maybe not. Another thing Councillor Callaghan referred to as well is, at the moment we're in a bizarre situation, not just residents in Pitsy, Basildon and Leyden paying the bill for residents in Billericay, but we've also got a situation where money that should be going on investment into our parks is going on investment in our car parks, which is it just doesn't make any sense at all. Just doesn't make any sense at all. So if you guys are really serious about you know, the points you're making about supporting businesses, etc., etc., support the amendment. Support the amendment. I've already said to you some of the other proposals and, you know, issues about volunteers at Lake Meadows and, you know, various things like that. I'm looking at all of those anyway. But so if you really are genuine about this and you're not just trying to make political capital, support the amendment, because it will solve your problems.
Thank you, Councillor McGowan. For clarity and, well, administrative purposes, could I have the exact wording of the amendment read out, please?
This council resolves to ask... This council resolves to ask the Wickford and Billericay Area Committee to consider revoking parking charges on weekends and evenings in Billericay and Wickford.
Thank you, Councillor Callaghan. The debate on the amendment is now open. I have Councillor Baggott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Callaghan just can't help himself, really. He took credit for forming the area committees, but in fact, it was Councillor David Harrison that actually wanted the area committees, and it was he that actually pushed forward having those area committees. The problem is that when they set up the area committees, they were done so quick that there's no proper terms of reference. Now, when I first asked whether or not we could actually provide some much needed cutting of a pathway through an area where children were not able to travel through on the way to school, I was told no, because under the terms of reference, this actually doesn't fall within it because that's a council responsibility. So now they're saying, oh, it's a council responsibility, which is the car parking, they want the area committees to actually fund it. And he said, where's he going to get the money from? Where's the ideas? Well, you could borrow less for a start, because £18 million, that's £540,000 interest. I know they're different pots, but it's still money to the council. That's £540,000 interest on vanity projects. He raised the issue about call-in. Well, of course, just because you disagree with a decision doesn't mean that it's eligible for call-in. There has to be a flaw in the process. There has to be something that hasn't been seen. And from my point of view, I couldn't see any flaw in the process. We don't like the decision, but that's not a reason to call it in. Following the debacle of Overview and Scrutiny the other night, it's interesting that Councillor McGovern's recollection is completely different to mine, that now were the decision to be made as a CMDR, and were that to be eligible for call-in, most definitely we would call it in, because your process is all over the shop. And the reason we didn't put in an alternative budget, we didn't put in an alternative budget. So where Councillor Callaghan stands up and says, this was your alternative budget, we didn't put forward an alternative budget. There was no alternative budget, therefore his comments are spurious. When it comes to the actual motion itself, the whole point is with car parking...
Thank you, please, can one speaker carry on, Councillor Baggott?
The whole point is with car parking is you can only fund based upon the use. It's an income revenue system, it's not an actual fee system. So, Mr. Mayor? Shut up. Okay? That's the best I'll do for you. Mr.
Councillor
Mayor?
Baggott, you have an extra 30 seconds.
Thank you very much. The point about parking is that it is an income revenue as opposed to an outgoing. So without knowing what the revenue is, for an area committee to say they're going to fund it, they are funding an unquantifiable amount, unless they fund the entire amount of what the full car parking capacity is, and then they're actually overfunding it. It's not policeable, it's not workable, it's just something that's been done on the back of a fag packet in panic, because all of a sudden they're realising that they've got, you know, thousands and thousands of people that are up in arms about it. And what's interesting is it surprises me that people that live in Billericay have such a disparaging view of the people in Billericay. It's bonkers. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Can I remind members that, well, the member is speaking, it is in the Constitution not to interrupt a member's speech. It's in the Constitution for all members. I'm not arguing about it. 11:30 is not the guillotine tonight because we started at 8 o'clock. The guillotine is 12 o'clock, just to remind members. It's 4 hours after the beginning of a meeting. So, moving on. Councillor Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Hold on, I'll just let these people.
Councillor Smith, you can continue.
Thank you. I was just allowing other members to clear up on that constitutional point. Some time ago, myself and former Councillor Andrew Gordon, as members of the Basildon Bus Forum, when the previous parking charge for Billericay was removed, the bus companies were less than pleased because they saw their revenues dropped when free parking was introduced. So it would be helpful, even though it was a pre-COVID time, if the members from Billericay and members of the Cabinet that are relevant with this portfolio look into that claim now to see if when we have parking charges, it actually increases public transport use, because they don't get the full subsidy from the county council. I know there's some other mathematics are not completely in the wrong there, but if the bus companies are seeing their income struggle, that could see people losing their bus routes. So I think the conversation needs to be held there to make sure the bus companies are fully supported. I'm surprised this motion's got as far as it has got to, because normally when I've tabled motions in the past and been slightly cheeky and chanced my elbow, to be told by the then monitoring officer, and as I say, it's not a criticism, it was a fair point from that previous monitoring officer, that how do you intend to pay for this? And that would be the legitimate question I would put to propose on the second of this motion. How do you intend to pay for it? I'm not going to parrot on what the leader has said, but if you're going to ask for what I'm told is £170,000, your motion should be saying where the money is coming from and asking for a vote on that. Because you can't ask people to vote for a pig and a poke. That's not fair. So we will be supporting the amendment. That's perfectly reasonable to ask the area committees. And without being rude, if you can fund a brass monkey in Lake Meadows, you can fund parking in Billericay. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. Do I have any more speakers on the amendment? Councillor Barnes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. What a mess this has become. My concern, and I made some of these points at the Scrutiny Committee on Tuesday directly to the Cabinet member, is that the very small financial benefit afforded the Council is vastly outweighed by the disadvantages to local businesses. Now retail and other local high street locations have been absolutely beasted by this government. We've had business rate increases, we've had NI increases, we've had the new regulations around late payment of taxes and all the rest of it. These are things that genuinely affect retailers. Many businesses are on the verge of going under. The reduction in footfall this policy will lead to may well be the last straw. We need to support these businesses, not make it even harder with new parking charges. And let's head off these points I've heard this week around the call-in and around area committees, the pushback that we have had from the administration. Call-in, as they very well know, is a process that only applies when the decision is incorrectly arrived at. The lack of a call-in is not a tacit approval of a policy. Labour called in a grand total of one decision in the 2 years they were in opposition before the election. I don't think they endorsed everything that we did during that time. Now, I may not like the decision that the Cabinet member has made, but I don't think anyone would question his right to make that decision, and I don't think any of us are suggesting that he's made it in an improper way. Now, ironically, of course, there may be scope for a call after the somewhat shambolic process we saw at Scrutiny, and we will have to take a view on that. But it does appear the policy around this is being made on the fly and in something of a panic. I can hear the reverse bleeping lights going on as we speak. Moving on to area committees. Well, I can, Councillor, because you're changing your mind like the weather. Moving on to area committees. And again, I did make this point on Tuesday, so I know you've heard this before, but you can hear it again. I think it bears repeating. The area committees were not designed to take up things that should come out of core revenue spending. That wasn't the purpose. The purpose was to do things for local communities that otherwise would not get done. Like, for example, replacing a very popular sculpture in Lake Meadows. That would not have got done without the area committees. I accept that. So I would urge members on the area committees to be very, very cautious, because it's going to be very easy to get caught up basically funding core council services through the area committee process unless you are mindful of it. The crunch was the thin end of the wedge on this, and now we're talking about, oh, we want to fund this, we want to fund that, 2 hours parking here, 2 hours parking there. No. They talk about Billericay and Wickford. You tell us that residents of Basildon shouldn't subsidise parking elsewhere. Well, we in Billericay and Wickford subsidise plenty of residents in Basildon through our council tax. You're welcome. This was one thing that residents could point to and say their council did for them. Their council did for local businesses. Their council gave their local shops a little bit of an edge when it came to battling places like Lakeside and places like Bluewater, because they were able to offer the same free parking that's available in those shopping centres. Now they're taking it away for 170k, the kind of money they could find down the back of the sofa if they really wanted to. This is yet another clear example of why Billericay, Wickford and the villages north of the A127 need to get out of this borough and forge their own path. I'm glad you agree. Why this unhappy marriage between us and the new town needs to end. If residents were not already alienated by an administration that ignores their needs and illegally reclassifies their ex-Greenbelt land, now they can't even use their local shops without paying through the nose. 18 million on the Westgate, Mr Mayor. 2 million on
Point of order, councillors, thank you. Please, can you, one person speaking? No. I'm speaking at the moment, don't interrupt, thank you.
He described it as illegal. Has he got any evidence to suggest it's illegal? No. So, yet again...
You're interrupting, thank you. Right, there'll be one member speaking. If there's a point of order, please indicate, thank you.
Point of order 23A.
Good. I was getting to the crunch. I'll finish anyway.
It's not 23A.
It is.
It's not 23A, Marianne.
It is.
It is.
It's a speech.
Yeah, member shall
Okay, 23A reads that no... Members.
No member shall use offensive words to any member or officer.
Thank you. 23A reads that members shall not impute improper motives or use offensive words, and no member shall impute improper motives to any member not present at the meeting or officer, whether or not present at the meeting. No member shall use offensive words to or regarding any member or officer, whether or not present at the meeting, in breach of the member code of conduct. So, have there been any offensive or improper motives
He's claimed that
indicated?
officers have participated in illegal activity.
Councillor Barnes,
Mr.
did you
Mayor,
intend to
I
impute that?
withdraw the remark.
You withdraw the remark?
I withdraw the remark. I will
Thank
say-
you,
I will
Councillor
say
Barnes.
that
We will
it's,
proceed
that-
with the debate.
Let me rephrase. Let me finish. If residents are not already alienated by an administration that ignores their needs and unwisely reclassifies its Greenbelt land, now they can't even use their local shops without paying through the nose. 18 million on the Westgate, Mr Mayor, 2 million on weekly collections, and yet 170k to protect shops and businesses that have been on our high streets for years is too much to ask. This is the wider issue with this authority made large. Whenever they need a few quid to fund a madcap scheme, it's our residents that get squeezed. We don't want to pay the highest council tax in Essex for worse public services, and we don't want to follow you into a doom liaison with bankrupt Thurrock Council. Set us free, Mr Mayor. We don't want to be this council's piggy bank anymore.
Thank you, Councillor Barnes. I have no more speakers on the amendment. Oh, I do. You should have indicated earlier, but okay, I'll let this Councillor Turner, as you haven't spoken in any of the debates thus far.
Already been said. So let's just correct Councillor McGurran, because at the last policy scrutiny, the 151 officer said this had nothing to do with the Conservative policy on waste collection. In fact, there's a 2.2 million overrun, and it's all at the hands of your administration.
Yeah.
Oh, hold on a minute. I'm speaking. I've got the floor, Mr Mayor. 2.2 million coming down to issues with staff, issues with vehicles. That's not a policy issue. That's an operational issue. You agreed to pay 1.9 million to go back to a scheme that residents apparently wanted, but you didn't tell them how much they were going to pay for it. So that you say it's the 3 million black hole, 2.2 million of it is your own making. It's all down to you. You say 54% of miscollections. That's not a policy issue. That's not down to the Conservatives running around hiding bins. That's an operational issue. I'm sorry to point out these facts because you've completely overlooked them. So please don't aim that onto this administration.
It's not an administration.
No, the previous administration. You are the administration. You are screwing up. It's clear that. It's absolutely clear. Now, let's come on to the funding. Every town in the borough has its own needs. Over years, over 25 years, when we've been in administration, we've funded those needs. We bought £10 million was the first shot across the barrel in Basildon when we bought Freedom House. It's now, and fingers crossed it will continue to be, successfully operated as a cinema. Billericay residents didn't turn their nose up and say, what you're spending all that money in there for. They happily fund that, and we do pay the highest council tax, and it is now the highest council tax in Essex because you brought in a budget that was busting the CPI, 3%. Make a note of that, Councillor Callaghan. You are responsible for the highest council tax ever in Basildon Borough. Ever. So 3% levied against our residents. But I think you're looking at this as a Billericay, as a Wickford problem. It isn't. It's a whole borough issue. Every town needs... We funded, as I said, in Basildon. We also work with private operators in Langdon, private operators in Pitsy, and Pitsy has never looked so good. Yeah, we did that. That's what we did. You can snigger, you can laugh. And isn't it funny how people who live in Billericay can despise the Billericay community so much? And you're seeing it here tonight, two of them absolutely snigger in the face of Billericay residents. Now, we said it started by saying 175,000 is not a lot of money. Okay, so fund it. In a budget of whatever it is, 32 million these days, fund it. It shouldn't be put back. Careful, because you're one as well. It shouldn't be put back. Yeah, it shouldn't be put back to parish councils, town councils. It's core funding from the council. That's what it is meant to be. Absolutely, there's no dispute about that. So all of these arguments where we've got to plug this hole, and let me just remind you, you are sitting in a facility that cost nearly £500,000. That was a Labour administration with the furniture, with the TV. You didn't back away and say, oh, we must plug a black hole. No, you happily rolled out 500 million funding on your folly. And so it goes on. Such as the 5,000-seater arena. Amazing. You can find the funding for that. 80 million on housing. As already been said, 20 million on Westgate. In comparison, the parking at Billericay and Wickford and, dare I say, Pitsy, in Wat Tyler, the funding that they need, it is small beer. So don't push it away. Don't try and kick it into the long grass. Stand up, be counted, fund it. It was a lousy decision. It will remain a lousy decision until a Conservative administration gets back in and funds it again. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
I now
You
move
live
to
amongst us, but you despise
Thank you,
us.
Councillor Turner. Thank you. Right. I now move to the vote on the amendment. All those in favour, please show. Thank you. Hold them up high. All those against? Are there any abstentions? I need a tally. Okay, that motion has passed. That amendment has passed. Now moving back to the substantive. Where's my list of speakers?
The substantive falls.
Now moving back to the amended substantive as amended. So back to the main show. Okay, Councillor Schrader.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, I thank my colleagues, Councillors Jeffrey and Myers, for doing their best to fight the residents' corner by bringing the original motion. These increased charges have gone down like a lead balloon in Wickford, I know, and I can assure them and everyone else in this room that they've been met with no less opprobrium in Billericay. This is a penny-pinching, miserly measure by this administration and a slap in the face to my community by taking away from them the one little crumb they get out of this rotten council. The introduction... You're a shower. You're an absolute shower. The introduction of weekend and evening... I have the floor, thank you.
Thank you.
The introduction of weekend and evening car parking charges in Billericay will have a tremendous negative impact upon local small businesses in my ward, as well as numerous charities and voluntary groups working at the heart of our community.
Councillor Schrader, do you mind pausing a moment? Please, members, please don't interrupt the speaker when he's on his feet. It is part of the Constitution that we do not interrupt other speakers.
Yeah, we don't defame people either.
Thank you. Councillor Schrader.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As always, it's the most disadvantaged and vulnerable who will bear the brunt. Those who can afford to pay always have options. They can go elsewhere. All these imagined multi-millionaires that the opposite parties think make up the entire population of Billericay. They can go elsewhere, but it's the marginalised in society who will now have to struggle or do without. I'm closely associated with the Billericay Community Cinema. They point out that the introduction of charges during evenings and on Sunday afternoons will adversely affect many attendees who tend to be older, less mobile and socially isolated. Walking to attend the Sunday matinee is simply not an option for many of these people, and they are a key and often underserved demographic in Billericay. The additional car parking charges will significantly raise the overall cost for these attendees and act as a deterrent, even though the cinema has done sterling work in keeping their ticket price exceptionally low. The charges will also impact their volunteers, the backbone, not just of the community cinema, but of many similar not-for-profit organisations that operate on and off Billericay High Street, penalising those who freely give up their time to support their community, and not only a retrograde step, but contradicts this council's strong record of promoting volunteerism and supporting services for those with accessibility challenges. The changes proposed for Lake Meadows are particularly pernicious and unfair Billericay Park Run are very concerned. None of the car parks serving the borough's other parks with park runs currently have parking charges. Park Run is a free community event designed to promote physical and mental well-being. Imposing charges in Billericay when other park runs are free will simply drive residents out of town and decrease visitors from other areas, deterring both participants and volunteers, threatening the future viability of both Billericay Park Run and Junior Park Run. I've also been contacted by the Friends of Lake Meadows, a registered charity, who do a tremendous amount of the heavy lifting for this council in terms of making Lake Meadows the amazing place that it is. The minimum 4-hour parking ticket in Radford Crescent on weekends will push users of Pure Gym and the Yoga Club to park in Lake Meadows for shorter stay options, further reducing spaces available for park run attendees and other park users. The current payment system, allowing for 2 half-hour periods during the day, was implemented specifically to prevent commuters parking there all day. It's clear that the current administration wish to use it as a source of revenue. The owner of the new Lake Meadows Cafe is particularly concerned about how this new regime will affect his business, which has only just recently reopened after a major refurbishment. The parking concessions for Billericay and Wickford High Street is something we've consistently maintained in order to give a little support to the small retailers in our old market town high streets, where they are consistently under pressure from out-of-town retail parks with plentiful parking. The leader claims that local businesses have told him they're not bothered about the free weekend parking, where it's about as credible a claim as I've ever heard him make. Clearly nonsense. I've represented the high street for nearly 12 years. My high street retailers have been telling me how much they value the free parking and how fearful they are of the proposed changes because they fear their customers will simply go elsewhere. The amount of money these charges are projected to raise for the council are paltry when compared to the financial impact they will have on Billericay, our high street retailers and those who use Lake Meadows, one of this borough's greatest assets, which attracts users from all over the entire borough and from beyond. I urge members to support the motion and withdraw the proposal to implement these charges. And anyone who is listening to this recording can hear the utter contempt that this administration has for the residents of Billericay.
Thank you, Councillor Schrader.
Disgrace.
Thank you.
Pathetic.
You are so boring. So boring.
I have no more speakers. Thank you. Members.
You are so boring.
Thank you.
In your dreams, you're full of. You're so full
I'm going
of
to
crap.
move to the vote. I'm going to move to the vote on the motion as amended. All those in favour, please indicate. All those against, please show. Okay, that motion has passed. Thank you. We now move on to motion B, to be moved by Councillor Westwick. Councillor Westwick, would you like to stand and read out your motion? Thank you. Councillor Westwick, do you have a seconder?
Yes, I do, Mr. Mayor.
Who's? Councillor McGeorge.
I stand before you tonight to express my deep concern and strong opposition to the decision made by the Conservative Police, Fire and Crime Commissioner, alongside the Chief Constable, to close Basildon's custody suite. This decision will have a serious and lasting consequence for the safety of our community. By shutting down this vital facility, we are not only removing a key part of our local policing infrastructure, but we're also making it harder for our officers to do their jobs effectively. Instead of being out on our streets where they belong, preventing crime and protecting the public, our officers will now be forced to spend valuable time transporting detainees to custody suites much further afield. What does this mean in reality? It means fewer officers on the streets. It means longer response times. It means officers stuck in traffic instead of tackling crime. And at a time when public confidence in policing is already fragile, we cannot afford to take the steps that further weaken that trust. This decision could not have come at a worse time. Basildon is already facing a worrying rise in vehicle crime. Certain housing estates are being repeatedly targeted. Residents are telling us that they feel unsafe. They are asking us for more police presence, not less. Yet, instead of supporting our officers and strengthening our local policing resources, this closure does the exact opposite. It leaves our communities more vulnerable and encourages criminals who now see fewer deterrents in place. We must do everything in our power to mitigate the damage caused by this closure. Tonight, I am asking the Cabinet Member for Community Safety Enforcement to work with the Community Safety Team to prepare a Safer Streets funding bid to install additional CCTV cameras in high crime areas, particularly those most affected by vehicle crime. Also, explore alternative community safety measures to compensate for the reduction in police presence, ensuring that our residents still feel protected. And also, I'm asking that a report to be brought to full council in the summer, detailing the progress made and outlining further steps we can take to improve our community safety in Basildon. This is about standing up for the residents we represent. It is about ensuring that our communities remain safe, that our police officers have the resources they need, and that we do not allow this reckless decision to go unchallenged. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Westwick. Councillor McGeorge, second. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. The closure of Basildon Custody Suite is not just a matter of infrastructure, it is an issue of public safety. The immediate consequence of this decision is that it will take police officers off the streets, redirecting them from the vital task of community policing and sitting on the A127. This is time that they could and should be spending on patrols, engaging with residents, preventing crime and responding to incidents swiftly. Instead, we have officers stuck in traffic away from the very communities they are supposed to protect. This not only reduces the visibility of policing, but also compromises the response time to emergencies. In a world where public trust in law enforcement is more important than ever, this decision sends a dangerous signal. It undermines public confidence and, worse, makes it harder for officers to do the very job they were trained for, keeping our streets safe. Vehicle crime is a big issue on our estates, and having recently had a vehicle stolen myself, it's not just the theft of the vehicle that's the problem, but the lasting effects. For many of our residents, that includes loss of livelihood while they're waiting for a new vehicle. That is why, in response to this challenge, we must act. We've all just voted, bar one, to extend the PSPO. We need police to enforce this, not sit in traffic. The Labour government have just given Essex Police an extra £27 million of funding. Why is some of this not being used to keep the custody suite open? I urge all members to support this decision, to call for action and to ensure that we're doing everything we can to protect Basildon from the consequences of this ill-thought-out decision.
Thank you, Councillor McGeorge. Councillor Mordecai.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I actually support Councillor Westwick, but I'd like to move an amendment, if I may. And just to make it perfectly clear, the amendment is not to usurp, it's to add to what Councillor Westwick has said. And my amendment reads that it instructs the Leader of the Council to write to the Home Secretary urging her to urgently review her funding decision of Essex Police and reconsider closing the £3 million shortfall to ensure that raw resources, as you've just mentioned, meet policing needs. Now, yeah, let me finish. We talk about the custody suite. I always say, you know, I can't comment on what people do for a living because I've never walked in their shoes. The custody suite I've walked in, I've been many, many years in there. It has fundamentally changed. As a police officer. No, yeah, I will make that clear, as a police officer. We deal with so many, the officers nowadays deal with so many issues now when people come to those custody suites, mental health issues, all sorts of bits and pieces. They need professional help there. That's why there's a dedicated custody suites. I don't like seeing custody suites closed. I don't totally agree with you, Ben. Yeah, but they need professional help, those people that get in there. I just want to clear up a couple of bits and pieces in relation to facts. There has been a slight increase in vehicle crime. Yeah, I've had that confirmed, 1.2%. But in the last 3 months, vehicle crime has dropped 31.2% in Basildon alone. Overall, crime is down 5% in Basildon. Antisocial behaviour, 2021, 5,154 reports in Basildon. 12 months to February 25, 1,775, a reduction of 66%. Fact checked on this. Like I said, I don't disagree with anything, for getting the money for the CCTV or anything like that. But if we could just write to the Home Secretary, and I've heard the leader turn around and said, I did, I've got another £2.5 million, fantastic. But there's still a £3 million shortfall. And what I'm asking, with your support, is if you truly are supportive of the police and what they do, as you say you are, I ask you to support my amendment. We owe it to every officer that works for Basildon in Basildon Borough. Thank you, Chair. Thank you.
Do you have a seconder? Thank you. As we reach the guillotine, you are formally second, and I call for a vote on the amendment. All those in favour, please indicate. All those against? Are there any abstentions? Okay, the amendment falls. Now move to the substantive on the motion. All those in favour of the substantive as written, please indicate. All those against? Any abstentions? Any non-voters? Okay. There being no urgent final business of this meeting, I wish you all a safe journey home. Thank you. What do you want to go for?